The first thing our protagonist did after being reborn was to invert all of his class skills. This was because he had obtained the mirror world system, which could reverse the effects of all class skills. As dimensional gates opened across the world, countless otherworldly monsters invaded human cities. Any human who came into contact with these dungeons could awaken the power of a class. After that, humanity relied on legions of class holders to conquer the dungeons. Our protagonist, as a legion captain, had annihilated countless dungeons and had even stepped into the most dangerous SSS-rank dungeon. But the joy of victory was short-lived, as he was betrayed. The Imperial Royal Family feared his power, because powerful class holders could easily change the social order, and a protagonist who had surpassed SSS rank was the most dangerous existence of all. Laoi, you who once faced life and death with the protagonist, you who he trusted enough to guard his comrades' backs, secretly poisoned our protagonist's armor. As Laoi's cold voice echoed, and the images of his fallen comrades filled his vision, our protagonist's consciousness began to fade. At that critical moment, the mirror world system activated, and our protagonist's soul sank deep into the riverbed. This sleep lasted for 66 years, until one day, a young boy was being tied up by some thugs on the riverbank. The boy was finally thrown into the river, thinking, "Why do they always bully me?" Just before his death, the boy's hatred awakened our protagonist. A second later, the protagonist's soul possessed his body. Then, the entire river's surface began to glow, instantly scaring the thugs into running away. Because at that moment, a new dungeon had unexpectedly appeared, and a new dungeon was not something they could handle. Only one of them, a kid with glasses, hesitated for a moment. He gritted his teeth, wanting to go back and save the boy, but by the time he ran to the riverbank, the dungeon had already fully formed. Just a second later, monsters poured out from the dungeon. The newly awakened protagonist was about to use a killing move, but instead, a beam of green light shot out and healed the monster. This made the kid with glasses think the protagonist was an idiot. Who in their right mind would actively heal a monster? The protagonist looked at his system interface and fell into thought, almost forgetting this wasn't his real body. Logically, every person who comes into contact with a dungeon gets bound to the system. They also receive their first class. Our protagonist's original class was a warrior with extreme attribute enhancements. Right before he died, it seemed he had used a skill called mirror inversion. After that, he had been trapped in the mirror world until he heard that boy's screams. So, it was likely he had been resurrected by borrowing the boy's body, but the original owner's body was truly weak. Moreover, it had awakened a support class, specializing in support skills. In all other aspects, it was inferior to a combat class. The protagonist's gaze continued to scan the system interface. Perhaps these skills will have some effect. The protagonist tried using one on a monster, but the system reported a failure. He then tried it on his reflection in the water's surface. The system no longer reported failure, but instead notified him that his current level was insufficient. This confirmed what the protagonist was thinking. Mirror inversion could only be activated through a reflective surface. So, the protagonist then aimed at the reflection on the monster's weapon. The system once again notified him that his level was insufficient. Just as the kid with glasses could no longer hold on, a beam of light shot up from the ground, and a massive figure began to emerge. A champion elite monster appeared, and the kid with glasses fell into utter despair, because this monster would require at least a level 10 class holder to deal with. It seemed they were dead for sure this time. The protagonist appeared right after, then used the mirror inversion skill on the reflection in the kid's shield. Asterisk. Ding. Asterisk. Cannot invert another person's skill. The protagonist understood immediately. He instantly switched the target to his own skill, selecting controlling vines for a mirror world inversion. Asterisk. Ding. Asterisk. Skill inverted into chaotic thorn bush. Instantly, countless thorny vines erupted from the ground. They then frantically wrapped around the monsters, blocking their path. And then, a bizarre scene unfolded. The Vanguard elite monster's eyes suddenly turned red, and it turned around, pouncing on its own kind. Its long claws suddenly tore its fellow monster to shreds. In just a second, the dungeon was filled with hand screams and the sounds of battle. The kid with glasses stared blankly at the scene, completely unable to understand how the protagonist, who had clearly been healing them just moments ago, had suddenly made these monsters slaughter each other. At this moment, the protagonist felt incredibly thrilled, because the inverted mirror world could completely reverse a skill's effect. The original effect of controlling vines was to launch it at a target enemy with a times chance, times to bind them. But after being inverted and enhanced, it became a skill with a times guaranteed chance times to throw enemies into a state of chaos. Who would have thought that a seemingly useless support skill could have such a miraculous effect? With his inversion ability, a vengeful glint flashed in the main character's eyes. So what, if it was a support skill? With the mirror world that inverts all things, not only could the MC slaughter his way through this secret dungeon, but he could also make those who betrayed him pay the price in blood. The protagonist then activated the inversion of his basic attack skill, instantly unlocking the inverted skill, Jester's Blade. For every 1 point of mana he consumed, he would gain a 10% attack boost for himself. He picked up the weapon dropped by the monster, then used the burst of experience points from the elite monster to level up. This was a perfect cycle, because every time he leveled up, his mana points would automatically be refilled. And with his mana points full, the protagonist continued to use the Chaotic Thorns skill. The system announced that the effect of Jester's Blade had been successfully triggered, increasing his attack power by 10%. 2 minutes later, the MC's attack power had increased to 120%. At this point, he only needed one strike to easily kill the elite monster. Four Eyes, who was watching from the side, was completely stunned. Was this agile person really the same Van Triet who was always being bullied? Just then, a sudden change occurred as a huge explosion erupted from the ground and a massive claw broke through the earth. The system announced that the final boss had appeared. This was a bit beyond the protagonist's expectations. This new type of secret dungeon actually had a level 21 hidden boss guarding it. The protagonist decided to test his opponent's strength. As he launched his attack, the system displayed a notification. Target is immune to Chaotic Thorns. Four Eyes immediately jumped to his feet, blocking the protagonist with his shield. This reminded him of his old comrade, who had once protected him from behind, even at the cost of his own life. However, Four Eyes' shield couldn't possibly block the powerful attack of this lion. His entire body was sent flying, and he crashed heavily onto the ground. The protagonist rushed over to heal him, only to discover that the original owner's healing skill was incredibly weak. He used up a ton of power and only restored a tiny bit of health. The protagonist could only tell Four Eyes to hang in there. He would try to finish off all the monsters in 1 minute. Then, with a serious look in his eyes, the MC began to frantically farm experience points from the monsters. After Jester's Blade ended, his energy was successfully restored to full. The protagonist figured that to defeat a level 21 boss, he needed to increase his attack power to at least 400%. But Jester's Blade could only be maintained for 1 minute at most. After some calculation, he realized he had to use Chaotic Thorns 40 times within that period. So, the MC hurriedly continued to use his stacking buff skill, instantly raising his level to 12. At the same time, his attack power also increased to 510%. Then, the protagonist immediately leaped up and slashed with his blade. First, he pierced through the boss's giant claw. Then he used 10 light slashes on the monster's back. In an instant, the boss collapsed to the ground with a look of agony. Four Eyes, witnessing this, was in complete shock. A level 5 support class player had just single-handedly defeated the guardian boss of this secret dungeon. Four Eyes rushed to ask the protagonist how he had become so powerful. The MC just looked at him without answering, and instead asked him what his relationship was to the protagonist. When he learned that this Four Eyes was the grandson of his old comrade, the protagonist was shocked. But weren't his familiar comrades all killed by Laui? Could it be that many of them had survived? Besides, to think that stinking brat from back then actually had descendants now. Four Eyes changed the subject, urging the protagonist that it was best to return to school, because in the afternoon, the school was organizing a trip to the Museum of Modern History. Not long after, the protagonist looked at everything around him with a sense of wonder. After sleeping for more than half a century, the world had completely changed. There was also something else that surprised the protagonist. Normally, only items dropped by monsters could be taken out of a secret dungeon, like the dragon-shaped bone ring on his hand. They could be taken out through the item storage. This was to facilitate transactions between professionals, but things that couldn't be put into the item storage would vanish after the dungeon boss was defeated. But in this world, the aura of magic from the secret dungeons could be seen everywhere. Could it be that some great change had occurred after his death? The protagonist's figure soon appeared at the Museum of Modern History, but as the guide was introducing the museum, the protagonist's entire body suddenly froze. The statue in front of him was none other than Laui, the supreme ruler of the kingdom, and the emperor who ended the secret dungeon catastrophe. Back then, this emperor was on an expedition to conquer an SSS-rank secret dungeon when he was treacherously murdered by a traitor on the spot. But at that time, the young Prince Laui endured the pain in his heart and then led the charge to quell the rebellion. Hearing this version of history left the protagonist in utter shock. Laui, that inhuman traitor, had actually become a world-saving hero in everyone's eyes. Meanwhile, he, the real hero, was considered a traitor, a sinner for the ages, hated by all. Moreover, what confused the protagonist even more was, who on earth was this Din Khan, back then? I've never heard that name in the professional guild. Just then, a familiar voice rang out from behind. Yunche, you piece of trash, you're still alive? He saw that our protagonist and Xiao Ji were both still alive and well. At that moment, the thug Ding Shu and his lackeys had surrounded our protagonist. His arm was slung over Xiao Ji's shoulder. You guys are pretty lucky, aren't you? But you almost dragged us into that secret realm, so how should we settle this? Xiao Ji tried to talk back, but was silenced by a threatening glare from Ding Shu. Open your eyes and look carefully. The traitor Qiao An is being trampled under the hero's foot. That's your great-grandfather. So, as a descendant of Qiao An, do you really think anyone is going to step up and help you? As soon as he finished, Ding Shu climbed up high and shouted, "No one can ever defeat my great-grandfather, Ding Kun." The surrounding students immediately erupted. Ding Shu's great-grandfather is the hero who put down the traitors. But now the descendant of a traitor dares to come here and insult a hero? The gossiping whispers prompted the teacher to walk over. He told Xiao Ju to hurry up, admit his mistake, and apologize to Ding Shu. Back then, the hero chose to spare the Qiao family, so Xiao Ji must be eternally grateful for Ding Shu's mercy. Xiao Ji's humiliation was about to boil over. Ding Shu just smugly patted his head. Let's be real, even if he beat Xiaozu up in front of everyone right now, no one would step in to help, because you're just an unwanted stray dog. Just as he was about to punch Xiao Ji in the face, a figure suddenly flashed forward. Then came a loud thwack. The completely unprepared Ding Shu was sent flying and ate dirt. Our protagonist stood there with a cold gaze. Doesn't the hero's family have time to teach this little brat some manners? This left everyone on the scene completely shocked. Has Yun Che gone crazy today? He actually hit the descendant of a hero in front of everyone. Besides, he's just a level 5 support. Isn't he afraid of being beaten to death by Ding Shu? Ding Shu scrambled to his feet, absolutely furious. He waved his hand, calling his lackeys to come forward. But in our protagonist's eyes, these guys were just cannon fodder, slow as snails. Our protagonist went straight for them, one punch per person, and in just a few seconds, he'd beaten them all senseless, right where they stood. The final blow was reserved for Ding Shu, as a rain of fists came pouring down. Ding Shu used his rage skill, increasing his attack by 25%. At that moment, he couldn't believe he was being beaten senseless in public by someone known for being a good-for-nothing. At that thought, he decisively gripped his weapon, the fire-forged mace, and swung it at our protagonist. Seeing this, our protagonist easily dodged it. Then, an explosive punch landed squarely under his chin. Ding Shu could only spit out, "How is this possible?" before passing out on the spot. At this point, the teacher finally reacted. The old geezer scolded our protagonist. "Wasn't insulting a hero enough for you? Today you dare to hit the hero's descendant in front of everyone. You truly have no shame." After saying that, he raised his hand and took out a staff. Our protagonist also waved his hand, revealing a bone ring. Just a second later, a purple phantom image appeared on the spot. The staff shattered into 2 pieces upon hitting the phantom image. This caused the old man's expression to change. Fear crept into his heart. What kind of equipment did the protagonist possess that it could block his attack? Our protagonist slowly opened his mouth to answer. "Teacher, you claim to be fair, yet you only listen to Ding Shu's side of the story. Are you perhaps trying to suck up to the hero's family?" The protagonist's words hit a nerve. The teacher could only pretend to be calm and say he would investigate the matter thoroughly. Because he still didn't know what kind of equipment the protagonist had, he assumed our protagonist also had some powerful backing. Our protagonist glanced at the damage to the bone ring. This was just an epic-grade item dropped by the level 21 Mausoleum Lord boss. It was clearly not enough to deal with the level 35 teacher. Then, our protagonist waved his hand dismissively, gesturing to leave. "If that's how it is, then just consider my punishment being kicked out." And with that, he left with Xiao Zhe. At this moment, everyone still had a look of utter disbelief on their faces. Was this still the good-for-nothing Yun Che they all knew, facing the teacher without a shred of fear? After leaving the museum, our protagonist's expression grew grim. Xiao Ji's great-grandfather was one of his comrades in arms back then, but now he was considered a traitor, just like him. It seemed the families of his old comrades would have a hard time surviving. Then, our protagonist turned to Xiao Ji and said he wasn't very good at history, so he asked if he could tell him about the hero, Ding Kun. Xiao Ji immediately perked up and began to explain. Legend has it that back then, Ding Kun was betrayed by the traitor Yun Che. He had set up an ambush near an SSS-rank secret realm beforehand, which is how he resolved the crisis brought on by the rebellion. Not only that, he also resolved the great disaster of Lindong City, and the flowing cloud sword on the statue is said to be the divine weapon that destroyed the traitor, Yun Che. Our protagonist clenched his fists. These people had plotted this from the very beginning. The great disaster of Lindong City was a bloodbath that he himself had quelled. Even that so-called flowing cloud sword was his own personal sword. A murderous intent surged in our protagonist's eyes. He had already decided on the first name on his revenge list. Ding-kun. If that's how it is, then I'll start settling the score with you. At the same time, outside the academy, as they stepped out, a group of guards was patrolling the area. Suddenly, one of them snapped his head around, his vigilant gaze sweeping in their direction. This made the two of them, hiding in a corner, not dare to breathe. Xiao Zi clutched his chest and said, "We should really get out of here. There are so many guards. Even if we manage to sneak in, Din Hook will definitely recognize us when he returns." The main character truly wanted to tear that bastard Din Khan to shreds right now, but according to Xiao Zi, Din Khan had spent a long time in a high-level secret realm, and entry required a special pass. Therefore, his descendant Din Hook would certainly have one. So, the main character turned and asked Xiao Zi, "Does their family really need this many bodyguards? Aren't they just one of over a dozen of Din Khan's descendants?" Xiao Zi replied, "But they're still the children of heroes, and they even have a secret realm in their house." Van Triet turned in surprise and asked, "A secret realm? In their house?" He responded, "That's right. Nowadays, all the low-level secret realms have already been bought up by private individuals. But if you don't have some power, you wouldn't dare to buy one, even if you could." Din Hook often brings his guards with him so he can kill monsters and level up anytime. But for regular students like us, we can only find monsters in the school's secret realm, and even then, we get robbed. Van Triet flared up, his voice laced with bitterness. This era has really changed. Doesn't this just mean the richer and more powerful you are, the higher your level gets? Xiaoji agreed. Of course, when ordinary people graduate from high school, they're usually between level 15 and 20. What's more, after leaving school, many can't access secret realms anymore, so they get stuck at that level for the rest of their lives. But if they can get a job related to secret realms, like a miner or a ranger in a national secret realm, they might reach level 30 or more by the time they reach middle age. As for Din Hook's guards, because they can enter his private secret realm, their levels are probably around 30. For anything higher than that, you generally have to be recruited by the military or accepted into official organizations like guilds, academies, or the army. Only then can you enter higher-level secret realms and reach higher levels. That's why, if we want to get stronger, that pass is absolutely essential, so we should really go back. The level gap is just too big. No matter how skilled you are, you're no match for those guards. Van Triet suddenly realized, muttering to himself, "With my current strength, it's a long shot to kill that hero, let alone deal with the countless layers of protection around the high and mighty King Luo Wei." But reconnaissance skills can be learned around level 30, and they're usually small-scale skills, like Eagle Eye, Enhanced Hearing, or Summon Spirit Rat. It's not enough to cover the entire area around the house at all times. And this isn't a life-or-death secret realm, so most of the guards will be much more complacent. That means sneaking in is more than possible. Xiaoji was baffled. Complacent? Where are they being complacent? Van Triet thought that, at the very least, it was much easier than scouting the blind spots. In the high-level secret realms of his past life, he continued, "Even if we could get in a private secret realm, like this, you could be killed by anyone, and there would be no consequences. Why would you?" Before he could finish, Van Triet grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up. He asked Xiaozhi, "Don't you want to change your life?" Xiaozhi replied, "Of course, I do, but that's only if I can get into a guild first, and then." Van Triet cut him off. "Get into a guild? And you really think that'll change anything?" Qiao Ji, the grandson of the traitor Qiao An, huh? Hearing that, he looked both sad and confused, not knowing what to do. Van Triet said, "Our destiny can only be changed by what we do right now. Besides, don't we have nothing left to lose? At the very least, I'm not going to pass up the secret realm right in front of us. You decide for yourself whether you're coming with me or not. Bon Bon, will your descendant make the same choices?" As you did? Qiao Ju was extremely conflicted, paralyzed by a hint of fear, unable to decide. He thought to himself, "I just Can't let him walk into a death trap. Van Triet raised a hand and gestured. Keep your voice down. He briefly thought. There are no traces of any summon-type reconnaissance skills over here. Van Triet observed everything carefully and realized that all they needed to do was be quiet. He grabbed Xiaoji and leaped over the high wall, thinking that if they could stay out of sight and seize the right moment, they could slip in easily. Xiaoji said in amazement, We actually got in. Before Xiaoji's eyes was something strange. He stammered, What is that? It was a hazy space glowing with purple light. Van Triet replied, An underground secret realm. This one's a slightly higher grade than the last one, but the number of monsters isn't too high, because Din Hook's family clears it out regularly. There are only 2 small fry monsters. You go. Give it a try. Xiaoji clicked his tongue and replied, Me? Fight them? There's no way I can win. He started to walk forward, 1 step at a time. But he was still attacked by a charging yokai. Kyuchi screamed, I was a complete idiot for trusting you. He yelled as he grabbed him by the collar, shouting, If I'd known this would happen, I never would have come. Kyuchi used his feeble strength to resist the yokai's counterattacks, screaming, I want to go home. Van Triet stood on the sidelines, taunting, Why don't you try fighting back? He yelled, How am I supposed to get a chance to counterattack? You guaranteed that you'd be here, that nothing would happen. Kyochi, a level 6 shield bearer, crouched down and observed carefully. Using the shield in his hand, he suddenly charged forward, delivering a strong counterattack against the yokai. Another yokai rushed in to attack Kyochi from behind. With his naturally sharp senses, Kyochi immediately spun around, raising his shield to block the blow. Van Triet leaned against a rock and watched, thinking to himself that his natural talent was indeed excellent. It was just that his timid and skittish nature made him only dare to defend. But his subconscious judgment of spatial positioning was incredibly accurate. Because he was constantly watching for dangers around him, he hadn't lost a single drop of blood. A desperate cry rang out. Bon Bon, I can't hold on much longer. Many people stop moving forward simply because they don't have the courage to challenge themselves. You've already taken your first steps. Kyochi spoke up. Huh? Did I just level up? Van Triet explained that experience points are distributed based on contribution. If you don't throw them off balance, even if I'm the one who finishes them off, you still won't get much experience. He suddenly thought, but his movements seem a bit too agile. Van Triet spoke up and asked, How have your attribute points increased? Kyochi answered, Besides, spirit, they've been increasing evenly. He asked, Don't shield bearers normally increase their agility points? He replied, If I don't, it'll be hard to find a team at school. Van Triet said that no one wants to wait for a slow shield bearer, because the monsters would just get stolen by other people. You should have a more long-term perspective. After level 60, class advancements and job changes all have attribute requirements. For example, the Fortress class requires 60 vitality and 90 defense points, so you can't just add points randomly. Kyochi quickly said, A normal person is lucky to even reach level 40 in their lifetime. How could they even think about level 60? That's S-class. Van Triet gently placed a hand on his shoulder, as if trying to give him strength. With a serious gaze, he said, From now on, you can start thinking about S-class. Van Triet then affirmed again, strongly and seriously, No, you'll go even beyond S-class. He thought to himself, Easy for you to say, but it's about time I started planning for my own class advancement. My class is support type. I have to rely entirely on my hidden skill, this mirror world, to turn the tables. If nothing unexpected happens, it will change into. A notification window appeared. You have received a shadow-type monster soul. Skill gained 2,000 experience points. Van Triet thought in surprise, My mirror world can level up too? A chaotic scene was unfolding as a sword slash cut through a yokai. The sword slash was sharp, and the creature's head flew from its body, blood spraying everywhere. A notification appeared. Trickster's Blade. Attack power increased by 70%. The yokai still wanted to counterattack, but it was too late because of Van Triet's decisiveness. He said, You're still not dead? A blade of immense power swept past, and the increased attack power vanished. Van Triet thought to himself, It seems the duration of Trickster's Blade has ended. This type of skill is very powerful, but it's impossible to fight with it for a long time. My stamina can't keep up with long battles either. But leveling up like this is already much faster than a normal person. The notification window displayed that the character had received 2,000 experience points. Van Triet suddenly thought. Moreover, killing these monsters also accumulates experience for my mirror world. It felt as if something unusual was about to happen. He glanced at Von Triet, slipped unexpectedly, but immediately caught himself with his hands to avoid making a sound. He suddenly thought, the Stronghold's patrol teams are coming out in greater numbers. Have they already discovered that someone snuck in? Kyo-chi spoke up. There are a lot fewer monsters now. If we continue like this, the risk will only increase. Von Triet also thought, he's right. While fighting monsters, I also have to pay attention to the guards' patrols. I also have to calculate the timing of Trickster's blade. It's a bit much for me to handle right now. Besides, from the skill book that just dropped, a skill book that can create a magic brick out of thin air. He thought to himself, not every skill is useful for combat after being reversed. Von Triet pondered. The mirror world is still about 30% away from leveling up. Its new level 1 reversal skill is already absurdly overpowered. It will definitely be even stronger after it levels up. If I can kill the boss of this hidden dungeon, I might be able to level it up directly to level 2. In other hidden dungeons, it's not guaranteed that I can increase the skill's experience points. This ability. I should still go check on the Lord in the central area. A darkness covered the entire space. Spirit beasts gradually began to appear. Von Triet thought to himself, summoning spirit rats, summoning eagle-headed cats. The scouting skills here are getting more and more advanced. He suddenly ducked behind a large cliff, as if he had discovered something. It was a chaotic scene, full of chains hanging from above. Kyo-chi spoke up. The Lord of the Secret Realm is being restrained here. This is the first time I've ever seen something like this. Von Triet added that the Secret Realm's Lord at the Academy is guarded by teachers, and no one is allowed to get close. Those chains must be a very high-grade piece of equipment. He suddenly stood still by the large cliff, lost in thought. There are quite a few guards around. If I make a move on the Lord, it'll definitely attract even more of them. At my current level, there's no way I can kill the Lord while surrounded. Von Triet shot forward, thinking he had to take out the guards first. A notification panel appeared. Taunting blade. Attack power increased by 150%. Crippled status. He spoke up. Next is the interrogation. You'd better answer me honestly. Natmon begged for his life in a panic. Please, don't. Ask me anything you want to know. I'll tell you everything. The Din family doesn't pay me enough for this to be worth dying for. Von Triet stood silently, observing him. He muttered, good. Then I can get straight to the point. Natmon immediately replied, the pass to the hero's secret realm? You mean? The old master has a whole pile of them in his room. They're not rare at all. He muttered to himself, this guy must be a huge fan of the heroic old master. That's why he's so worked up. Seeing that Von Triet didn't seem to believe him, Natmon shouted, it's true. I've seen them several times. The passes are from the old master's study. He's currently out with the captain of the guards. But they're just temporary passes, with no personal information entered yet. If you don't have an acquaintance to bring you in, you'll definitely be interrogated. Von Triet flared up, growling, that's none of your damn business. First, take everything out of your system backpack. He then dragged the man outside of the secret realm, into the main courtyard of the Din estate. Von Triet questioned him, is that chanting skill book on you really the only one you have? Natmon replied, I swear I don't have any others. The Din family is incredibly stingy. Basically, anything that drops in the secret realm has to be handed over. We only get a few scraps. All the good stuff is kept in the main house. A system panel displayed, Light of Baptism, Moonflower's Descent. The man's voice continued. Also kept inside the house. Over there, that's the Din family's main residence. Without a summons, we guards can't normally go inside. Because in the Din family, aside from the young Din Hook, everyone is level 30 or higher, and their equipment is all top tier. To be honest, they don't really need us for protection. Von Triet then asked, so, if I can get inside, I can get the pass, right? The man objected. No, the Great Master is in there right now. A map formed in his mind, the main house, the large courtyard, and the Lord's secret realm. Natmon continued, that mustached guy is level 42. If you run into him, you definitely won't be able to win. The Old Master and the Third Master, who are both over level 50, are out on business. If they happen to return while you're there, it'll be even more dangerous. Von Triet thought for a moment. Going into the house meant facing a great master who was many levels higher than him. Natmon had passed out. Von Triet called out, Kyo-chi. As if he already had a plan, Von Triet then gave an order. To Kyo-chi, he said, you stay here. He thought to himself. In that case, all I need to do is lure him out. Inside the secret realm, just outside the Lord's area, massive, long chains hung from above. Von Triet suddenly became contemplative, using high-level chains to restrain the Lord. If the Lord doesn't die, the secret realm won't disappear. That's why it's so important that they have guards watching the locks. This method is indeed very cautious. But the premise for this kind of caution is that no one is willing to die to unlock them. He rushed forward and covered a guard's mouth, thinking, I was already quite familiar with chains of this caliber back in my past life. A loud noise erupted. People all around started murmuring. What's happening? What was that? Van Triet grabbed the chains, thinking, I need to make the Great Master rush out of the house. This method is absolutely perfect for it. The people around them shouted, What's going on? Why has the Lord suddenly broken free? Outside the secret realm, Uncle Lamb yelled, Stop dawdling, get into the secret realm and provide support. Now. All the guards stationed outside scrambled inside in a panic. Van Triet thought, the level 60 equipment is mine. Now I'm at the entrance to the Din family's courtyard. At the main gate of the residence, a butler bowed and opened the door to welcome them. Welcome back. Second young master and young master. Din Hook, his face covered in bandages, spoke irritably. It wasn't that serious, so why did he have to come out to greet him asterisk? I just let my guard down for a second against that bastard Van Triet. Din Hao replied with a blank expression. Greeting, you was just convenient since I was on my way. Afterward, the butler bowed with a sycophantic smile. Miss Van Za, please, step out of the car. She and Van Am then emerged majestically from the vehicle. He walked with an elegant and confident stride. Before the man could even speak, Ding Hao held out his hand. Xiaola bowed low. Welcome to Biren's pawnshop. Ding Hao frowned, his face twisting in clear disdain. He swiftly kicked the man hard in the stomach. Ding Hao's voice lowered. Don't just stand there blocking the way. Then, he followed 3 others inside, leaving Xiao Lei lying on the ground. From a distance, Xiao Zhe froze as he witnessed the scene. Yun Che rushed down and asked doubtfully, What happened? Did you see the Ding family people leaving, so you decided not to go in? Seeing his stiff expression, he walked closer and asked, What's with that look on your face? Xiao Ji turned and replied, How did you get over there so fast? Yun Che explained clearly, That thing is a secret realm lord, after all. Even if it's only level 30, it's hard to capture alive, so there was no need to cause a scene. They won't be able to recapture it within half an hour. So, what was it that you saw? Xiao Ji glanced into the distance, his voice choked with emotion. That person. He was bowing his head, taking a scolding from his superior. His voice was tinged with sadness. That's my youngest uncle. Back when our family fell from grace, his entire generation was practically wiped out. But even so, he shouldn't have to face everyone with such humiliation. Ever since then, the Qiao family has constantly suffered under the Empire's oppression. What's more, under the shadowy influence of the hero Ding Kun, the bullying has only gotten worse. In the end, we could only become servants of the Ding family, occasionally dragged out to display the hero family's power and benevolence. For anyone in the Qiao family to survive, they have to watch the Ding family's every mood. We can only bow and scrape, barely clinging to life. His parents originally thought about fighting back, but as a result, his father lost his mind and went insane. And his uncle and became nothing more than the Ding family's dog. Xiao Ji clenched his fists tightly. Was it really the right choice for me to come here? After hearing his story, Yun Che started walking forward, his voice resolute. I'm going into the house. Xiao Ji jumped in shock. Ding Xu's father is in there right now. He's level 42, fully equipped. If he finds you, you're dead for sure. Yun Che stood firm, his voice unwavering. In an era where secret realms are controlled like this, if you're not willing to take risks, there's no hope of ever changing your situation. Besides, there are some things you'll never achieve if you're always hesitating. Xiao Ji. I can help you change things. But first, you have to make a choice for yourself. I choose to fight. But I won't force you. Xiao Ji's face paled. He answered, trembling, But they're a great clan, with the power to rule the world. Can we really stand against them? Yun Che got into a stance, ready to dash forward. He spoke with conviction, the one I want to confront. He shot forward instantly, leaving Xiao Ji with a stunned expression. Yun Che's voice echoed back, Is this entire empire? He charged straight from the woods toward the house, leaving a brilliant streak of light and a swirling gust of wind in his wake. In the living room, Ding Hao was sipping tea leisurely. So the secret realm lord escaped its bindings, huh? Yun Sa was avoiding the question he had asked a moment ago. Is he busy dealing with some trouble? I can always come visit another day, she offered. Ding Hao waved his hand, replying with a fawning tone. Not at all. My older brother can handle it. How could a trivial secret realm matter more than Miss Yun Sa's visit? Besides, after my father and third uncle heard you were willing to come, they started heading home right away, so they have more than enough manpower to handle this. On top of that, I've already contacted Hiro Ajia. He's also very eager to meet you. Yunche, hiding silently behind the railing, was lost in thought. Hiro Ajia. Is that Hiro Ding-kun? I remember you need a pass and a guide to enter a hero's secret realm, and judging by the way they're treating her, her status must be quite high. Yunsa, having the same surname as me, Yun, is quite a coincidence. For now, I need to focus on getting that pass. Yunsa glanced up at the corridor, as if she sensed something. Two maids entered, chattering cheerfully with each other. After the two of them left, he cautiously stepped out, his wary eyes scanning the surroundings. Yunche kept his face hidden, revealing only his sharp eyes. He gently pushed the door open and stepped inside, shrouded in an inscrutable aura of mystery. Inside the room, warm sunlight filtered through every corner, illuminating countless bookshelves and creating a truly peaceful space. Outside, in the large courtyard of the Ding estate, Ding Ingok and the others emerged from the secret realm. They had finally managed to subdue the realm lord. It was intentionally released by someone, he noted, but there's no trace of anyone around now. They wouldn't take such a big risk just for a single piece of high-grade equipment. He pointed and commanded in a shrill voice, "Surround the house first." She graciously agreed to be our guest, so we cannot allow her to be disturbed for any reason whatsoever. He rummaged through the study, looking for something important. Nothing. Weren't they supposed to have a whole pile of them? Suddenly, Yunche's hand flashed with a few small sparks, and a system notification chimed. You have used the skill. Dematerialization. Art. It can render physical objects intangible. With a brick, the effect lasts for 4 seconds. He pulled open a drawer, and a lone, yellow diary appeared. Van Triet picked it up, a look of surprise in his eyes. It was a diary. These were all high-quality skill books. Skill book. Light of Deceleration. Slows enemy units by 20% within a 20-meter radius. Learnable by priests and support mages. At the inner gate of the Din family's grand courtyard, a large crowd had surrounded the area. Kyuchi, his face grim, hid behind a tree. Why are all the guards running in this direction? Could they have found us? This is just too dangerous. More and more guards are showing up. If Van Triet doesn't get out now, he won't have a chance to escape. If I don't get away and they find me, then they'll have yet another excuse. A woman clutched her child amidst the rubble as people fled in a panic. The Din family's men were slaughtering people everywhere. He clenched his fists. I should just leave quietly. At least I can protect myself. Otherwise. Kyuchi remembered what Van Triet had said to him, that he could help him change. But first, he had to make a choice for himself. After a moment of deep thought, Kyuchi quickly made his decision. He let out a loud yell. The shout attracted the guards, who alerted their comrades. Kyuchi ran, shouting, with the guards in hot pursuit. He thought to himself, Van Triet, I'll draw them to me. You have to make sure they don't find you. Behind his mask, the corners of Van Triet's lips curled into a smirk. So, it seems he finally conquered himself and chose to fight. The chains and the skill book are with me. Come and get them, if you dare. The guards were furious. One of them roared, Get him! Light of Deceleration consumes 50 mana. Its 60-second duration causes enemy units within a 20-meter radius to have their speed reduced by 20%. With nimble movements, Van Triet decisively charged down. Light of Acceleration. Consumes 50 mana. Duration of 60 seconds. It increases the speed of all allied units within a 30-meter radius by 30%. Dinnak yelled forward, Team 2, Team 3, hurry back and protect the dungeon boss. He's not running outside, he's heading for the dungeon. Hearing this, Kyuchi was completely shocked. Why would he lead everyone back in the opposite direction? Van Triet glanced over. So many guards have been drawn outside. The dungeon boss must have been brought under control. If the boss has been subdued, it must have been through a massive battle. That means its health must be at its lowest right now. If I kill it, I can level up the mirror world. In contrast to the chaos outside, the living room was strangely quiet. Van Sa gently lifted his teacup. That's quite a commotion outside. You don't really have to stay here and entertain me, you know. Din Hao replied with a sneer. It's just some petty thief. My older brother is taking care of it. Everything will be fine. Din Ingak shoved his way through, screaming, Don't block my way. Their speed is too slow. Charge straight for the boss. Rangers and archers, follow me and pursue that intruder. Van Triet glanced back. Din Ingak was closing in fast. He quickly calculated in his head. Every class gets an additional 3 points upon leveling up, and I've put half of those points into agility. On top of that, there's the acceleration from my supplementary skills. Around level 30, usually only archers and rangers can keep up with me. From his high vantage point, Van Triet observed the sealed boss and the dense swarm of guards surrounding it. Seeing this, he fell into thought. Is the boss sealed here because they're afraid someone will kill it? This proves it's at its weakest right now. If I use my full power, I can eliminate it instantly. The men shouted as they saw Van Triet. He's here! Get in formation. The soldiers lined up in neat rows. Each row consisted of a different combat class. Van Triet activated his skill, Chaotic Thorns, and purple, thorny vines shot straight ahead. One of them had a panicked look on his face. What kind of skill is that? Another added, yeah, how come I've never seen it before? A masked soldier explained clearly. It's a skill that inflicts an abnormal status effect. A human's resistance to status effects is nothing like a monster's, so how could we get hit so easily? He slammed his scepter on the ground, and the earth immediately exploded, sending the guards flying. Someone screamed in panic, "This is bad. Someone got hit. It's impossible. The status effect probability of this skill is off the charts." Van Triet nimbly wielded his dagger. He weaved through the guards. With his swift movements, he bypassed the next line of soldiers. The more people there are. At this rate, I can reach the low-health beast. Many were hit by the attack, and the area descended into chaos. The screams were endless. He's broken through. Where are the control skills? Shield soldiers, why aren't you stopping him? Don't use that skill on our own people. Van Triet shot them a contemptuous look. What a disorganized mob. They don't have a shred of combat experience. Has such a long period of peace made them lose it all? The shield soldier's voice was firm. Hold steady. He's only one man, but whatever. While he was fighting, a beam of blue light shot straight towards him, but Van Triet instantly dodged it. The soldiers sounded extremely confident, convinced that if they surrounded him, he was as good as dead. Dinnak quickly caught up, and he ordered his soldiers, "Hold him down." Dinnak swiftly equipped his armor, his voice firm. "I'll be the one to deal with him." Dinnak swung his axe up, his whole body bursting into flames as he activated a skill. The blazing fire strike aimed straight for Van Triet's back. While parrying a blow from a shield soldier, he shot a provocative glance over. "Bring it on." Van Triet's sharp eyes flashed with a smug expression. "This is good. Although my level isn't high enough to wield it, I can't. Just use it for a stat boost. And besides, its durability is at level 60. Dinnak unleashed a massive wave of fire toward him, but Van Triet quickly parried the blow. He secretly calculated that he could use the immense impact force from this attack to break the seal. As if he'd found the key, Van Triet aimed straight for the Overlord's shackles. "Here it comes," he said, his voice a mix of gratitude and mockery. "Thanks for the help." A vein bulged on Dingnak's forehead as he growled out each word. "How dare you!" Van Triet landed multiple strikes on the creature, claiming all the Overlord's experience points for himself. After the fierce battle, victory was his. As fragments of the Overlord's body scattered everywhere, a series of system notifications chimed in. Level up ×3. Character information. Incantation level 20. High spirit. Outstanding agility. 9 free attribute points to distribute. The Mirror World skill has increased to level 2. Mirror World experience is full. Level up complete. Dinnak was furious, his face twisting in rage. He charged straight at Van Triet, yelling, "You bastard!" He stood before the Overlord's corpse, with Dinnak and his subordinates charging from behind to capture him. Van Triet began interacting directly with the system interface. He pressed the Use button on the system panel, activating the Aniful's Mirror World Level 2 skill. Dinnak put all his strength into a massive swing towards Van Triet's position, but he had vanished, leaving only a streak of purple behind. He and his soldiers were completely bewildered, not understanding what had just happened. Did we fail? Inside the mirror world, Van Triet slowly materialized in a hazy, reflective space. He looked at the blue figures, wondering to himself, "What are these things?" Van Triet glanced at the system window. Mirror walk. Remaining time, 29 minutes and 51 seconds. Seeing this, he showed a hint of surprise. A world inside the mirror? Van Triet had suddenly appeared in the mirror world, and he glanced at the souls around him with curiosity. So, this is the world inside the mirror? No wonder it's an inverted version of the real world, but these guardians seem to be just illusions. He reached out and touched the crystals lying on the cold ground. Van Triet picked up a shard of crystal and remarked, "This isn't an illusion. Can I take it out with me?" So, after this skill reaches level 2, I can enter the mirror world and take things out. Then that means there should be some changes to the system, right? The status list immediately appeared. He was surprised. What are these skills? Van Triet reached out to touch the skills that were unlocked but not yet activated. The system panel then displayed a message. Base skill not yet learned. He began to ponder. It seems what's displayed here is the inverted version of all my skills, right? So I just need to learn the base skills in the real world to activate them here, huh? The skill inversion at level 1 was just a watered-down version of the level 2 function. It seems I can choose the powerful skill combinations I want to learn first. It's best if I plan out my next progression path. Suddenly, Van Triet whipped his head around, looking in horror at the flying illusions. Souls. He realized that other souls could also exist here. Those souls began to transform into dangerous crystalline forms. Van Triet concluded, so they've turned into soul monsters, huh? He quickly used his weapon to strike its body repeatedly. Van Triet's eyes were cold and determined. Doesn't seem very strong. Suddenly, a flash of golden light surprised him. The system announced a necro contract. You can sign the contract and can be brought out of the mirror world. Van Triet was shocked. A contract? After defeating a spirit, I can capture it as a summon and bring it into the real world? He focused, processing this new information. It's not just the crystals. It seems mirror world level 2 lets me take items from here, and even spirits, and bring them into reality. Van Triet glanced at all the spirits, inwardly excited. How interesting. Elsewhere, the soldiers were lying in ambush. The dungeon has disappeared. So why? Hasn't that guy reappeared yet? How could he just vanish into thin air? Could this be a wanderer's hidden skill? Another soldier replied, impossible. Our class's hidden skills have a physical presence and duration. They can't be undetectable. Hearing this, Dingak flew into a rage and grabbed his subordinate by the head. Then you tell me why. Why did so many of you let that rat get away? If you can't find him, you'll pay for this dungeon with your life. Just as he was venting his fury, Van Triet suddenly appeared, stunning Dingak. He spoke, my time for walking in the mirror is up. Huh? Will I be sent back to the same spot if I leave, or are there other conditions? Seeing Van Triet appear, his blood boiled and he roared out his demand. Attack. Van Triet calmly generated a flash of light. Don't be so hasty. After being trapped for so long, it's only right I give you a little parting gift. Isn't it? Have a taste of my army of the dead. After that, Ding Ingak's soldiers were overwhelmed by the spirits. Someone shouted, what is this thing? Is it a demon? He quickly tried to calm them. Don't panic. They're just undead-type monsters. That's all. I've seen plenty of them. Dingak's subordinates were pushed back, unable to resist the undead. Someone noticed that it had a status bar and was only level 20. He grew even more frustrated and yelled, I told you not to panic. Fight back and capture it. Everyone gets a raise. From a distance, the young man glanced at the men who were suddenly filled with fighting spirit at the mention of money. Suddenly, Van Triet vanished, leaving them bewildered. Where did he go? By this time, he was already long gone from that place, deep in thought. These undead spirits are still too low level. If I could obtain higher grade spirits, then that rabble wouldn't stand a chance. But of the spirits I can find in here, I've already made contracts with the 20 strongest ones. And the mirror world has a search limit. After entering the mirror world, I can only operate within a 200-meter radius. I need to find time to explore other areas within the mirror world. Let's see if I can find any higher-level spirits. Suddenly, Van Triet saw a scuffle involving Kyochi happening below. At that moment, he was being lifted into the air and interrogated. You think you can escape? Did you really think I'd miss you? I wonder what the reward is for catching you. And just then, he swooped down and pulled Kyochi away. His eyes went wide with confusion at the sudden action. Van Triet forcefully dragged Kyochi away with him. Let's go. It's time we went back to check on our spoils. Groups of armored men fought fiercely against the terrifying spiritual beasts. In the dense space, a decisive strike immediately staggered the beast, causing it to emit an eerie green light. The system displayed a death notification. Just then, a voice rang out. These things aren't that strong, but how can they come back to life after being killed? The heavily bearded man was panting heavily. Dingqua's expression was arrogant as he slightly raised the corner of his eye. These are all summoned creatures. Even if they can be revived, it definitely consumes mana points. So, we just need to kill them a few more times. At the same time, Ding Dan's deep voice asked, has Miss Van Za returned? In the Ding family household, Ding Can bowed before the old man and spoke earnestly. I'm sorry, father. I couldn't stop her. The truth is, the intruder was too brazen. Not only did he escape from the Ding family home, but he also smashed a window on his way out. Ding Dan frowned and spoke. An intruder actually got inside the house? Not only did you fail to catch him, you don't even know what he looks like. Is this how you all do your jobs? He bowed at a 90-degree angle in remorse. It was my failure. However, Miss Van Za has agreed to go to the hero's secret realm. At least there won't be any problems with the An family. Hearing Ding Qua's report, the old man spoke with contempt. When you find out who they are, you must send them to meet their maker. Go and see if anything else was stolen. Meanwhile, in another space, Von Triet was holding the access pass. Enter secret realms and other territories. He stared at the card, thinking, although I've got the pass, I still need someone who can get me into the hero's secret realm. But there's no rush for that. This time, at Ding Hook's house, I managed to reach level 20. Although the Chimera Bone Ring is basically broken, I managed to get over a dozen skill books he had stashed away in his house. Van Triet took out a magic skill book. He realized the chants were support skills. Learned battle chant, cost, 40 MP. Duration, 60 seconds. Critical hit rate, 65%. Critical damage, 15%. Defense, -20. He thought deeply. On the contrary, I can use these skills to supplement my own stats. Inverted shield chant. Cost, 40 MP. Duration, 60 seconds. Critical hit rate, -12%. Critical damage taken, -23%. And defense, 30. At that point, I can just rely on my own stats to crush anyone at the same level. War Power Boost, a passive skill, permanent duration, strength, +3. The system continuously updated with essential skill information. Corrupted Knight's Armor. Van Triet observed it meticulously. Also, that lord dropped a piece of equipment earlier that I can use later. And most importantly, I've managed to level up the mirror world to level 2. The undead summons I've captured have significantly increased my combat power, but it's still not enough. Based on the style of the armor on the statue, the hero must be at least an S-rank subclass of the Berserker class. I need to at least get an undead contract of the same rank and raise my level to over 50 to have a chance of taking him down. Seeing you sitting there so listlessly, Qiuqi spoke up. Von Triet, they won't be able to chase us, right? He glanced over, a sinister smirk playing on his lips. Relax. I've already shaken them off, and they didn't see our faces. We'll be fine. Even with Van Triet's reassurance, Qiuqi still felt a sense of dread. Van Triet observed his expression. Still feeling anxious? It was a lot for someone his age. Qiuqi, are there any nearby dungeons where a powerful expert has died? He asked. A dungeon where an expert died? He replied. That's right. I want to find a higher level dungeon to level up. As for the expert, you'll find out when the time comes. Qiuqi thought for a moment, then spoke cautiously. Well, speaking of dungeons where a powerful expert has died, there is actually one. His narrow eyes showed some hesitation as he stammered, but that's a school dungeon. There's no way we can sneak in. Hearing Qiuqi's explanation, he took the opportunity to think. A school dungeon with a breach? Then I'll have to rely on some special tricks. Kong Lai's eyes widened, dazzled by the rare books in his hand, unable to believe it. This is for me? A rare, purple-grade skill book. And it's even for my Wanderer class. He cleared his throat a few times in embarrassment. It seems this kid, Van Triet, really has some backing. Then he spoke slowly. The school dungeon can't just be opened for anyone, anytime. I can't pull any strings for you. However, this dungeon is only opening soon for graduating students. Generally, underclassmen aren't eligible to participate. But if a student is exceptionally outstanding, you can join the expedition with a teacher's recommendation. I will do my best to get you that spot. At the same time, inside the school dungeon, Cat Luong was chattering nonstop. This might be the only chance in my lifetime to enter this dungeon. I've got to grind as many monsters as I can. Hearing this, his teammate standing beside him smirked. If it weren't for the hero's gift, we wouldn't have this chance either. He chimed in, thank you, hero. However, Van Triet's eyes seemed to have noticed something unusual. Something is wrong with this dungeon. Kong Lai continued his explanation. This is the hero's dungeon, gifted to our school by the hero himself. Legend has it that the hero once fought in here. There might still be traces of him somewhere inside. While everyone was listening intently to the lecture, Qiuqi stood meekly in a corner. His face was pale as he was lost in thought. The hero's dungeon. Isn't this the very dungeon where the hero valiantly struck down the traitor, Qiuan? Qiuqi glanced at Van Triet hesitantly, his heart pounding with anxiety. Should I tell Van Triet? Kong Lai reminded them. But the level of this dungeon is very low, so just be mindful of your strength. Tuha, you lead everyone. Hearing his assigned task, he grumbled through gritted teeth. Then how am I supposed to level up? Kong Lai had to plead with Tuha. All right, stop complaining. The dungeon is open. Hurry up and go in. He spoke with contempt. Underclassmen are here too? What a pain. Now I have to drag along 2 pieces of dead weight. Once you guys are inside, stay behind me. Don't cause any trouble for your big bro here. Otherwise, if you end up dead, it's not my problem. As he was about to enter the gate, Van Triet sensed the aura. This is a level 20 to 40 dungeon, so why do I have such a dangerous feeling? The surrounding atmosphere was shrouded in darkness, with mana swirling everywhere inside the hero's dungeon. Suddenly, they gathered in small groups, looking ahead and chattering excitedly. What's that? Van Am and Van Saw are here too? Aren't they underclassmen? Tuha looked towards Van Triet and said with disgust, "See? Those 2 underclassmen got in too. If only Van Saw and her group could be transferred over here. Leading girls gives me so much more motivation." The more he talked, the more he drooled greedily. Maybe I could even. Vuong Lam reminded him gently, "Tuha, stop dreaming. They're probably over level 30. We're the ones who asked them to lead us. Besides, don't even think about punching above your weight." Hearing him say that, his mood soured. I know, I was just kidding." But while his mouth said one thing, his actions, a sly glance in their direction, said another. Seeing the 2 girls striding closer, he was stunned. He spoke shyly, "Vansa, you," but the harsh reality was that they didn't even spare Tuha a single glance. With stunned eyes, Van Triet watched as the distance between him and her grew smaller and smaller. This woman was the guest from the Din family's house. Her status isn't low, so why is she seeking me out? Did she know the original owner of this body? Or is she here to stand up for Din Hook? Just then, Van Am's sweet voice reached him. "I saw you yesterday at the Memorial Museum. Your skills aren't bad, and your voice is very distinctive." Van Triet was astonished by her. She's just striking up a conversation? Van Am's sharp eyes shone as if they held a soul of their own, and her voice was crystal clear, even over the sound of shattering glass. The memories of him shattering the window to jump down were striking. Van Triet had to look at her in a new light. This woman. She recognized me just from the 2 sentences I spoke yesterday? The next second, he saw Van Am. Swiftly changing her outfit, she spoke alluringly. "Greetings are done. Let's start with just this for today." Beside her, Vansa also summoned components for her outfit and said, "Let's go explore first." Seeing their unusual behavior, he thought to himself, "They figured it out. They're not exposing me in front of everyone. Instead, they're speaking to me like this. Are they trying to warn me? True, that Din Hook guy might also recognize our voices. But as long as the Din family doesn't find us anytime soon, we'll be fine. With my leveling speed, by then, I won't have to worry anymore. Since they've shown good intentions, I'll give them a warning too." Van Triet's deep, warm voice spoke up. "You 2 should be careful. This secret realm has a dangerous aura." Van Saw, in her elegant attire, turned her head and said, "Come to think of it, I did feel a very strange presence here. Based on my level, I wouldn't normally need to pay it any mind, but thank you for the warning." Hearing their conversation, the people around them pouted in disdain. Is that even Van Saw anymore? Isn't she supposed to be really cold? But the way she acts towards him? This girl was curious. How do you even know Van Saw? Seeing this, the noisy crowd started asking, "Do you 2 know each other?" "That's right. Could you introduce us?" Van Triet coldly waved them away. "Sorry, we have to go," Tu Yet Dung shouted. "Go? You want to act alone? The weakest monsters here are at least level 20. If you 2 underclassmen run into even a single small fry, you'll die in an instant." Seeing her kind and enthusiastic act, Tuha ran over to stop her, saying, "Just let them go. Anyone who can associate with Van Saw can't be all that bad. I doubt their levels are that low." Hearing his words, they were stunned. The girl spoke up. "But Teacher Lai told us to look out for them, so how could their levels?" He reminded them in a low, sharp voice, "Don't forget our real purpose for coming here. The less you know about that place, the better. There's a rare crystal there. Do you really want to share it with them? Besides, everyone's equipped with an emergency flare gun, so let's just leave them be." But in his venomous heart, there were no such good intentions. On what grounds does some ordinary punk get to know Van Saw? If he's that clueless about his own limits, then he deserves to die. Crumbling walls were bathed in a deep pink glow at the entrance to the secret realm. In front of the active portal, Bak Hai spoke. "Din Hook? What are you doing here?" He pressed in close to the man, asking threateningly, "A team just went in, didn't they?" Bak Hai replied, "That's right. What do you want?" Hearing the answer from his own mouth, Din Hook's bloodshot eyes sharpened, as if he wanted to devour everything in sight. 2 familiar names quickly surfaced in his mind. Van Triet, Q Chi. He immediately recalled what Din Kan had said. "Don't you dare try to pin this on them, just because of that fight at the Memorial Museum. I don't have time to clean up your petty messes right now." Din Hook roared in anger. It was them, the intruders. It was really them. I heard their voices. Seeing Din Hook's unstable behavior, the man warned him in a stern voice. Ah, Hook. The intruders slipped right through our fingers, despite all our guards. What student could possibly pull something like that off? You at least have to prove that those two are strong enough to get past our guards. Otherwise, it's hard for me to help you. All right, we're discussing important matters. Don't bother us anymore. As those words echoed relentlessly in his head, he grew even more furious. He grabbed Bakhai by the collar. Did Von Triet and Qiuqi go in too? This secret realm. I want in. Inside the heroic secret realm, Van Triet continuously swung his blade, wiping out hordes of mana fiends. With a single critical strike, he successfully sent a fiend to the afterlife. Next, Van Triet unleashed a powerful blast of magic at the massive mana eye fiend before him. It quickly counterattacked, but he immediately activated his evasive reflex state. Van Triet urgently commanded, Qiuqi. He quickly understood, using his surrounding shield. Instantly, protective shields appeared around Van Triet. The system panel appeared, surrounding shield. Qiuqi also smartly shouted to encourage Van Triet, activating his rallying cry state. System, rallying cry, attack and speed increased by 5. In a flash, he reached the eye fiend's shoulder. Van Triet raised his blade, preparing to deliver a fatal blow. He immediately swung down, cleaving the massive beast in two. The system then announced, Magic Blade remaining, 7 seconds. You have leveled up. Van Triet, level 21, Chanter. Beside him, Qiuqi cheered joyfully. I leveled up too. I went up another level. Qiuqi, race, human, level 11, shield bearer. Meanwhile, Van Triet was lost in thought. Among the skill books I got from the Din family earlier, there just happened to be Surrounding Shield and Rallying Cry. At Qiuqi's current level, he can learn them. Even though the monsters here are a bit high level, with Qiuqi's help, things will be much easier, much more. According to that teacher, there's a very rare monster in this secret realm called the Du Touch monster. Killing it has a chance to drop a support skill called Gravity Pull. Luckily, I was able to read the skill lists from the mirror world, so I know which skills are worth learning. He gazed into the distance, thinking, it's not just the Du Touch monsters, but the necro spirits too. I wonder where those powerful warriors died in this realm. Hopefully, I can find some high-level ones. Suddenly, Van Triet's eyes widened in surprise as he saw something strange. Huh? It turned out he'd spotted a tall monster with tough armor. Van Triet was stunned by the creature. Could this be the so-called Valley of Crystal Pillars? He looked down at the monsters from the cliff. Van Triet pondered, why are so many elite-grade Diothach monsters gathered here? Moreover, they've moved at least 1,000 meters. They've long since surpassed the normal activity range for monsters. Are they the vagrant type? Vagrant types are rare monsters in secret realms that don't stay in one place, but wander all over. Their strength is far greater than that of ordinary monsters. In the past, when humans weren't as strong, encountering a vagrant type meant a brutal, bloody fight, because they would even wander outside of the secret realms, leading to countless tragic dungeon disasters. However, corresponding to the danger, defeating them rewards you with experience and item drops, far beyond what you get from normal monsters. In an instant, Van Triet closed in on the Du Touch monster, this incredibly strong creature. When the moment was right, he unleashed a killing blow, slashing at the monster, resolved to test his strength with a single strike. But to his surprise, the monster actually had a regenerative ability, which caught Van Triet off guard for a moment. A continuous healing skill? He continued his assault, firing magical power at 2 Diothach monsters at the same time. They weren't about to back down, retaliating with a barrage of lightning bolts. Even with Qiuqi's shield for protection, Van Triet was hit amidst the relentless assault. He grew uneasy. These monsters' attacks are both fast and numerous. At this rate, no matter how fast I am, I can't dodge everything. My health points and defense are too low. If it weren't for Qiuqi's surrounding shield, I would have been seriously injured by now. In this difficult situation, Van Triet decided to summon his spirits, but even the summoned necro spirits couldn't withstand the power of the Diothach monsters. It's no use. Even the necro spirits can't hold them off. Fortunately, their movement speed is still quite slow, but I can't raise my own health and defense in such a short time. It seems the only way to defeat these monsters is to rely on increasing Qiuqi's defense after he levels up. With that thought, he immediately commanded Qiuqi, let's go. First, we'll grind on some other normal monsters to level you up. After a while, Van Triet and Qiuqi arrived at a low-level monster area. He carefully considered his plan. From that high point earlier, I saw plenty of monster locations. They'll be perfect for power leveling him. In party battles, a shield bearer is an indispensable first line of defense. Other classes can hide behind the shield for better protection. From the start, all of Kyochi's attribute points have been focused on defense. Plus, there's the protective helmet I conveniently snagged from the Ding family guards. So now, he at least has the core defensive capabilities of a shield bearer. He can now block attacks from monsters up to level 20. Having observed him for a while, Van Triet had noticed Kyochi's shortcomings and began to instruct him. Lower your stance, stand firm, and aim your shield toward the target. Kyochi immediately followed his instructions, striking the spirit monster with a powerful blow. He was overjoyed to quickly realize his shield had changed. Its durability was decreasing less than before. Suddenly, Van Triet's voice startled him. Watch out for the attack from behind. Although he was hit by the spirit monster's attack, thankfully, Van Triet rushed in immediately and sliced off its arm. Van Triet warned in a stern voice, "You must always be vigilant for the enemy's next attack, and your range of motion doesn't need to be too wide, and leave room to deal with the next blow. Even while maintaining vigilance, your body should remain relaxed. Only tense up at the moment of defense." Van Triet clapped Kyochi on the shoulder encouragingly. "Keep going. I've got your back. As a shield bearer, you must always pay attention to the movements of your comrades behind you." Kyochi nodded in understanding, a confident smile spreading across his face. As Van Triet helped him block the monster's attack, he instructed, "Remember, when the difference in power isn't too great, skill is what determines victory or defeat." Finally, the two of them managed to wipe out a formidable troop of spirit monsters. He thought gleefully, "Leveled up." The system window appeared. Van Triet, human race, level 22, necromancer. Van Triet looked at Kyochi with a sense of pride. Now, he could fight with confidence, facing the enemy head-on, and because of that, the experience points were split more generously. He was overjoyed by my side. "I've reached level 15. Kyochi, race, human, level 15, shield bearer." Kyochi excitedly held the shield plate skillbook in his hands. He could finally learn it. Shield plate equips an outer layer of armor plating to one's shield. And just like that, he quickly learned the new skill. Over here, Van Triet was still deep in thought. The skill book he had casually grabbed from Ding turned out to be the exact one Kyochi needed. It adds an outer layer of armor to the shield he summons, and with this protective plating, his defense points increase. It should be enough to deal with a few elite-level wanderers. On a nearby cliff, Lei Liet, Leon, and Trang Chin were worrying about those very same monsters. How are there so many elite-level wanderers here? Where did they even come from? This is too dangerous for the students. We need to deal with them immediately, Leon said nervously. But we can handle normal level 30 monsters, sure. But dealing with these elite wanderers, that's a different story. Suddenly, the three of them saw a flash of light from the other side of the cliff. It was a student's distress signal. Trang Chin wanted to rush over to help. "Let's go save the students over there first." But Leon hesitated. "But the wanderers over here are also very dangerous. What if students who don't know any better run into them?" Lei Liet, who had been observing, also spoke up. "That's right. Just in case, I think it's better if I stay behind." Trang Chin agreed with the idea. "All right then, you stay, Lao Bai. If anything happens." But before he could finish, he was cut off by Van Triet. "How about you let us keep watch here instead? The distress signal over there must mean they've run into a wanderer too. If it's just the two of you, it might be too much to handle." Trang Chin was skeptical. "You guys?" Van Triet was firm. "These wanderers aren't fast, and besides, they haven't noticed us yet. So as long as we watch from a distance, nothing will happen. You teachers can go without worry." After a moment of hesitation, the three professors decided to trust him. "All right, but those monsters are extremely, extremely dangerous. You absolutely must not act on your own, you hear? Make sure you hide properly. If you get spotted, there's absolutely no way you'll be able to escape." Hearing this, Van Triet confidently thought, "It's more like times there, times the ones who won't be able to escape." Van Triet immediately dashed down and unleashed an attack, slashing at a wanderer. Next, he fired a magic blast at the one behind it. Kyochi quickly activated his protection, his shield now encased in armor plating. Van Triet used his summoned undead spirit to take a hit, and then zipped to the other side. In an instant, the undead spirit was completely defeated, but thankfully, he had managed to land countless critical strikes on the Wanderer. However, its armor was incredibly tough. They barely did any damage at all. Van Triet grew frustrated. Just a little more. He did a 360-degree flip, pouring all his strength into a final blow. And with that, the fatal strike sliced the massive monster in two. Van Triet had finally succeeded in defeating it, but still, he wasn't satisfied. I've successfully dealt with one wanderer. I've pretty much adapted to this class now, but I'm still so much worse than I was in my past life. Van Triet unleashed a continuous barrage of powerful slashes against the group of wanderers, even though I can use the reverse skill to coordinate and greatly increase my attack power. The base attack of a support class is still way too low. If only I could improve my attack power just a little bit more. Very quickly, Van Triet defeated another monster and leveled up again. This further confirmed his earlier suspicion. Leveled up again. These rare, elite-level monsters really do give a ton of experience. The system panel appeared. Please pick up the dropped item. Van Triet slowly approached it. His eyes widened in shock as he held the item in his hand. A weapon with an attack stat? It turned out to be a crystal longsword with an attack power of plus 552. Van Triet thought with satisfaction, this is the perfect thing to make up for my low base attack power. Now, my battles will be much easier, and yet, he still felt it wasn't enough. It's a shame the gravity pull skill book I wanted didn't drop. The drop rate doesn't seem to be very high, huh? If I could just get a little luckier, maybe run into a few more wanderers. Suddenly, a strange red beam of light shot up into the sky. Huh? Van Triet remembered what happened earlier. Isn't that where the distress signal came from? What's more, the signal that lit up this time is the special emergency signal, the one that only the teacher's team is equipped with. Over on the other side, Trang Chin was sweating bullets, holding up his shield to defend. What the hell? Why are so many wanderers gathered here? An entire area had been surrounded by giant wanderer monsters. He and the others were forced to take refuge in a small crevice in the cliff. On a nearby cliff, Van Sa and her teammates had also arrived. So many monsters have gathered in this place. What on earth happened here? A black-haired man with an aquiline nose stepped forward. I'm not exactly sure myself, he explained, pointing. We just followed the signal here to provide backup. The signal came from the cave. They must be trapped in there. The people inside are doing their best to hold out. We're organizing a rescue party now, but there are just too many monsters. Even if all of us teachers go in, it won't be enough. Their faces pale, the teachers pleaded with Van Sa, saying how wonderful it would be if she could lend her aid. She answered confidently, this is my job, after all. With that, Van Sa immediately cast her spell. Secret Art, Starlight Theater. Instantly, the entire area was illuminated by sparkling stars. The system window popped up. Spirit power +2. Attack power increased by 20%. Everyone cheered in excitement. The buff from this skill is incredible. It has to be at least epic grade. Next, she unleashed gravitational pressure, forcing the monster to its knees in an instant. Van Am immediately used Hidden Thorn to help take down the wretched monster. Gasps of awe were heard. So strong. Now we can finally rescue the people inside. As expected of Van Am and Van Sa, Van Triet saw everything from above. Not only their equipment, but even their skills were top tier. Looks like even without me, nothing bad would have happened down there. I don't know what the situation is in there, but something must be attracting so many of these wandering beasts to gather here. He turned and said to Kyochi, I'm going to go in and check things out. You go with these people for now. Van Triet quickly activated Mirror Walk to scout ahead. He stood on a crystal formation, thinking carefully. There are crystals all over the ground. They're all mirrors. I can enter the mirror world at any time. Van Triet recalled the last time he used this skill. It's just that I haven't had time to figure out the mechanism for returning to reality. Yesterday, at the Din family's place, after Mirror Walk's duration ended, I couldn't get back in. He stared thoughtfully towards the cave. Humans have shadows, but the monsters don't. Van Triet glanced over at the monster's corpse. But the monster's body actually exists. Does this mean that besides me, every other living creature in the mirror world is intangible? Van Triet ventured deeper into the cave. He came across some familiar faces. It's them. That's Tuta, isn't it? It looks like they were here to lure the wandering beasts together. And then, they sent out a distress signal. Because they're operating in a narrow terrain, they won't be in any immediate danger. But I really wonder what's inside that could attract so many wandering beasts. Van Triet lowered his head and walked towards a strange blue glow. It's all crystal. This stuff really messes with your sense of direction. Suddenly, he froze. They even have this stuff here? Van Triet placed his hand on a nearby rock. Is this a special crystal ore? No wonder Tuta's group came to this cave. This type of crystal isn't like the ones in the outside world. Secret realms produce special materials that can't be found in the outside world. Furthermore, people with life system professions can use these materials to create special items like accessories. These mineral deposits are worth far more than thousands of gold pieces. The moment he touched it, the system displayed a notification. Mirror crystal ore can be collected. Can I take this? From here? Back to the real world? Yes. Or no? Van Triet stared in shock at the two options. From this place, back to the real world. He suddenly placed his hand on the massive crystal. Could it be? Van Triet's lips curled into an intrigued smile. So, all I need is a place in the mirror to return to the real world from. He began to collect all the crystals there. There's still so much more to discover about this skill. That's why I need to find a chance to study it carefully. After finishing his collection, Van Triet quickly moved forward. But for now, I have to scout this place out first. He stepped into a small passageway. The amount of ore in here is abnormally high. Mining all of this would be more than enough to turn an ordinary person into a billionaire. No wonder so many wandering beasts have gathered here. Vansa leaped high into the air, using gravitational pressure and causing the rocks and earth to shatter. Van Am used twin blade dance to slice through the large boulders. The two of them continued their assault with starlight arts, while the onlookers began to chatter. Could all of their skills be epic grade? How is every single one so powerful? They're way stronger than the teachers. A diagonal slash was unleashed, flying straight towards the boulder. It immediately cracked into small pieces. The people below saw this and were overjoyed. They cried out in relief. We're finally saved. I really thought I was going to die in here. Van Am suddenly appeared before them and said, "Don't let your guard down yet. We still have to get out of here. And everyone's already exhausted a lot of energy." Van Sa raised a hand to the brim of her hat. "But it'll be easier than before," she said with a smile. Suddenly, her eyes caught sight of something, and she froze. Golden eyes flashed. Behind him, Van Am's face also turned pale. A swarm of monsters advanced on them, like ants pouring from a nest. This is, they screamed in terror. Have all the wandering beasts in the secret realm come here? Inside the mirror world, behind gray boulders, gleaming blue crystals were suddenly struck by a flurry of overlapping slashes. The boulders and crystals shattered and collapsed in unison, truly like a maze. Van Triet's eyes suddenly widened, as if he'd seen something. Oh, he looked up and saw a massive, glowing crystal. This? Van Triet stared at it, wondering, could this be the hidden secret? If the various crystal ores are the special products of this secret realm, then this core must be its one and only secret treasure. A secret treasure is the condensed crystallization of a secret realm's so-called special products, nurtured for an unknown length of time. An ordinary person might go their whole life without ever seeing one. Each secret treasure of this kind has its own unique special effects. Mirror core, rank, none, type, secret treasure, unique item. Van Triet picked it up and smiled to himself. It increases basic attributes and reduces basic attribute damage. The vitality increase will give my health points a massive boost, and the increased mana recovery speed will let me stack my magic blades even higher. More importantly, it reduces light and electric attribute damage by a whole 20%. Percentage-based damage reduction is incredibly rare. Even top-tier equipment rarely has much of it, and that would still take up an equipment slot. As he looked at it, he suddenly grew suspicious. But the strange thing is, the crystal ores attract the wandering beasts. If a secret treasure exists, then this secret realm should have a monster far stronger than the wandering beasts guarding it. Van Triet reached out and touched the system panel. I'll use this secret treasure and then get out of here. Choose your action. Use, collect. Using or removing it will consume 10 minutes of mirror travel time. Do you wish to consume it? Huh? Outside, the others' faces were ashen, drenched in cold sweat. Van Sa and Van Am also wore looks of utter disbelief. Massive boulders began to crack and fall away, revealing a colossal monster standing behind the horde of wandering beasts. That's the Lord of the Wandering Beasts. It's a hidden boss. The Wandering Lord is a rare hidden boss, separate from the secret realm's main lord. Its power far surpasses that of a normal lord and is far beyond anything the teachers or students can possibly fight. Overcome with terror, they began to rage. Aren't wandering lords only supposed to appear in high-level secret realms? Why is a monster like this in this secret realm? At this rate, we're all going to die here. Van Sa's lips trembled as if to say something. Then she suddenly shouted, "Everyone, calm down. Working together to escape is the most important thing right now." Van Sa stood on a high rock, pointing in a specific direction. "We can escape this valley through that canyon over there. Once we're out of the valley, we can get away safely." She began to use the star-roaming secret art and continued, "So, don't hold anything back. Put everything you've got into breaking through in that direction." Trang Chin also powered up and voiced his agreement. "That's right. At the very least, we have to get the students out." He equipped a suit of armor, then charged forward bravely. "I'll start the rotation. We'll take turns striking out." The others also gradually rushed forward to fight back against the wandering beasts. A series of massive explosions erupted, and black smoke filled the sky. The healers stood in the back, supporting the fighters. Looking down from above, a small group of people was struggling against massive monsters. The wandering beasts didn't just stand there and take it, they began to counterattack. Hold on, we're almost there. Suddenly, the wandering lord let out a deafening roar. Assembly war cry. Upon hearing that mighty sound, the wandering beasts immediately ceased their actions. Obeying the command to assemble, they all surged in one direction. To their horror, countless more wandering beasts poured in from all sides. Holy crap, where did all these monsters come from? The wandering lord's eye flashed with the light of a crystal aura. A magic circle appeared in the sky. Health points, attack power, and defense power were all boosted by 20%. The others fought back while asking, why did their attack power suddenly increase so much? Someone shouted to their side, the damage is too high. The healing can't keep up. A barrage of light beams struck one person's body, causing them to scream, save me. Seeing this, a student cried out, ah, the teacher is dead. Vansa quickly changed tactics. Shield guards, to the front. Clerics, prioritize healing the shield bearers. She looked at the scene before her, thinking worriedly. Everyone had already exhausted too much of their energy. Now, they were just barely holding on. And what's more, the rogue lord. It hasn't even made a real move yet. Someone in the group suddenly spoke up. This is bad. At this rate, there's no way we can break through the encirclement. He activated his stealth and quickly dashed past the others. He gritted his teeth and whispered to himself, I guess I'll have to save myself. He burst out of the encirclement, weaving past the giant rovers. Trang Chin held out his hand to stop them, shouting to the others, anyone with a rover class, don't follow him. The stealth duration isn't long enough. You won't make it out in time. Just as he was in stealth, the man suddenly reappeared right in the middle of the giant rovers. Trang Chin's heart leaped into his throat. His eyes widened as he stared ahead. The rogue lord had spotted the man and opened its mouth wide, gathering energy. Then, it unleashed a fatal blast right at him. A voice screamed out, watch out. Trang Chin couldn't believe his eyes, his face filled with horror. The lord's blast had instantly turned the man to ash. The scene was pure chaos. The horde of rovers was still massive, seeming as if their numbers hadn't dwindled at all. One of the group members pointed forward in a panic. Not only that, the blast collapsed the canyon. That attack power is just insane. We're not getting out of this. Once again, the rogue lord began to gather energy in its mouth. The person turned their head, their face etched with worry. We're screwed. This time, it's coming for us. There's no way we can block it. Just as the words left his mouth, Sa'am and Savan burst out from the encirclement. Both of them charged forward, simultaneously planting their shields to form a barrier. Giant's Aegis, Mountainside Shield. Both shields had incredibly high defense. The rogue lord's attack slammed into them, but didn't even make them budge. Vanjia turned around and yelled, anyone with high strength, get over here and help hold this. If it falls, we're all dead. Her face was beaded with sweat from the fighting. This shield was a level 70 piece of equipment, so its durability was pretty much guaranteed. But because it was such a high level, no one was strong enough to actually equip it, making it difficult to move. This could only buy them a little time. The people standing behind the shield turned pale. Why is there a monster like this in a school's secret realm? As Trang Chin strained to hold the shield, his eyes darted over to two people who were arguing. This is all your fault. Why did we even come here? He gritted his teeth, pushing with all his might as he thought, was everything I did to save them pointless? At least, those two kids should be safe, right? Trang Chin glanced behind him and saw Kyo Chi also pushing against the shield. Huh? That's the student from the back. Didn't I tell those two to wait in the valley? Why are they here? In his moment of distraction, a rover broke through the shield wall. The man behind him screamed, look out! Kyo Chi quickly used his power to create a new shield. The shield enveloped the rover just as it fired a beam of energy at Trang Chin, blocking the attack. The attack still grazed his shoulder, drawing blood. After all, the perimeter defense had already been breached. Now, there was no one left who could stop this horde of rovers. The man from behind ran forward to block a blow for Trang Chin. He clutched his injured arm and stared at Kyo Chi. This kid, he's got this kind of power? But now all the guardian shields are broken. He was sent flying backward. Our defense has completely collapsed. Kyo Chi fell to the ground, a streak of blood running down his face. As a rover behind him began to charge its power, Trang Chin's eyes flew wide open, the veins bulging. There's no turning back now. Suddenly, Van Triet appeared. With a single slash of his sword, he cut the rover that was about to attack Kyo Chi into tiny pieces. Seeing this, Trang Chin could finally relax a little. Van Triet, his entire body enveloped in light, praised him. Qiuqi, you did well. He closed one eye and raised his hand. Van Triet gave Qiuqi a slight smile and continued, leave the rest to me. Not long before this, in the real world, Van Triet stood before a brilliant, glowing green crystal. He mused. Besides the replica, secret core, from the mirror world, there's still the original in the real world. It looks like, with this mirror world, my future income could double. The only problem is that the crystals and ores aren't easy to bring out. The system announced, you are about to be ejected from the mirror world. Insufficient transfer time. Please select the items you wish to bring out. He thought, it's just like I figured, with the secret trove. To take out one crystal unit, it consumes 10 minutes of my time in the mirror world. The system prompted, please select your action. Van Triet selected use core. For now, I'll have to settle for bringing out the most valuable item, the replica core. A system window appeared. You have used the core and the mirror core. Suddenly, the entire area began to shake violently. Cracks spread everywhere, and huge chunks of rock fell from the ceiling. He started to get flustered. What is this tremor? Triet quickly ran to figure it out. What happened? I have to see if I can still pass through the mirror world. He jumped into the mirror world to check. The system announced mirror traversal. Van Triet happily realized that, as long as he had remaining time for mirror traversal, he could enter and exit at will. Only after the time was fully consumed would the cooldown begin. He leaped up, zipping through the crevices in the rocks, and Van Triet shot out. The system announced, you have left the mirror world. Now, before him were tens of thousands of monsters. Van Triet looked at them and thought, the number of monsters has increased again? Even if they were attracted by the crystal ore, there shouldn't be this many. Behind him, a monster appeared, larger and more powerful than the Wandering Lord. It seemed to be the source of his initial sense of danger. Van Triet charged forward, preparing for battle, but he was still thinking that Qiuqi and the others were in danger. He had an idea, if he could enter and exit the mirror world at will. The very moment the monster swung its fist towards Van Triet, he appeared inside the mirror world. Van Triet jumped away from the attack's location and returned to the real world. This way, I can dodge the monster's attacks much more easily. As he swung his sword, cutting down monster after monster, he calculated in his head, I'm level 24 now. My total magic points are 140. My magic recovery rate is 2.6 per second. And with secret art plus 5, my attack power can be boosted by up to 330%. The system announcement rang out. Magic Blade. Attack power increased by 180%. 8 seconds remaining. Van Triet's gaze sharpened. Even though this is urgent, the Wandering Lord is even stronger than a Secret Realm Lord. I need to reach at least level 30. He entered the mirror world. I'm still a long way off. Van Triet advanced towards where the others were fighting, left that world, and quickly slashed away the monsters surrounding Qiuqi. Van Triet maintained his fighting stance and praised him. Qiuqi, you did a good job. Seeing him, Qiuqi felt like he was looking at his savior. Van Triet said, leave the rest to me. He made full use of the mirror world, entering it again. When Van Triet appeared in the real world, he would swing his blade, swiftly taking down one monster after another, then disappear again. If you have any support skills, buff me. I'm going to take care of this wandering horde. Hearing this, Van Sa quickly assisted by casting spirit sorcery. Qiuqi didn't stand idly by either, using shield armor and aura shield to help. Van Triet immediately received a buff effect. Spirit power plus 2, attack power increased by 20%. He thought, even though the number of monsters is absurd, after using the spirit core secret art, my health points have increased many times over, and the light attribute has also reduced damage by 40%. I'm not in any danger anymore. It's just that these monsters are immune to chaos. Otherwise, they could be wiped out much faster. The people who had been fighting those monsters all this time were shocked to see Van Triet taking them down so easily and quickly. One of them spoke up. Am I seeing things? I think his status bar shows him as a caster. But why is his attack power so high? Trang Chin added. And what skills is he even using? He can even phase through things? He felt a wave of relief. He's that strong? And here I was, worried about him earlier. Van Triet continued to slash his sword with gusto, battling the horde of monsters. The system rang out. Level up, he thought excitedly. With so many monsters gathered here, leveling up is going to be incredibly fast. Van Sa, standing by and watching Van Triet fight, was also astonished. Her opinion of him had changed. I originally thought this guy was just a thief with a lot of guts, but I never expected his strength to so far exceed my imagination. Van Am was just as surprised. quietly observing Van Triet. He continued to phase in and out between the mirror world and reality. The number of monsters decreased accordingly. The system regularly announced, "Level up." Van Triet had now reached level 28. A man exclaimed in amazement, "Is this guy reinforcements from outside? He's so strong." Trang Chin replied, "I've met him before. I think he's a student." The others were stunned to hear this. "What? A student? No way." The monster let out a roar and prepared to unleash an attack. Everyone grew panicked. "This is bad. It's about to attack again." It fired a massive, powerful purple beam of light toward him. Van Triet was starting to feel the pressure. "Even now, I still can't tank this attack. Plus, I think it's starting to move. Once it gets close, even our two shields won't be able to protect us." Trang Chin seized the opportunity and gave an order. "The number of monsters has been greatly reduced. Let's focus on one side and break through the encirclement." He said urgently, "If we wait for that wandering lord to get closer, it'll be too late. No matter how strong that one person is, there's no way he can fight this wandering lord alone." The others protested, "But these two shields are really hard to move. What if we break through, we'll have to face an attack from that wandering overlord." "That's right. The moment we move, it can easily land a direct hit on us." Another person added, "These two shields are huge and heavy. The only way to carry them is to put them in our inventory." While everyone was terrified of those monsters, one person spoke up, "Just leave it to me." It was him. Van Triet bravely stood up to protect everyone. "I'll attack it, draw its aggro, and then everyone can use that chance to escape." Trang Chin was both grateful and worried for him. "We'll escape, but what about you?" Van Triet was also doing this for the sake of the future. If this wandering overlord isn't dealt with, it will gather all the monsters in the secret realm and unleash them to roam the outside world. Most of the major disasters in the past were caused by wandering overlords. So, with a steely gaze, he replied to the man's question, "I will stay behind, and then I'll kill it." A system notification appeared. "Arcane Blade. Remaining time, 7 seconds. Mirror Jaunt remaining time, 5 minutes and 41 seconds. Trang Chin urgently prompted everyone, hurry up and break out." No matter how strong that person is, facing so many monsters and a wandering overlord, he's bound to get exhausted eventually. "We have to escape quickly, so he has a chance to get away," someone asked doubtfully. "Didn't he say he wanted to kill that overlord?" Trang Chin said. "He only said that to put our minds at ease. I mean, that thing is a wandering overlord." Qiu Qi was also struggling to find an escape route with the crowd. He glanced back, full of self-blame. "I'm still so useless. And at times like this, all I can do is run away." "Van Triet, you better not let anything happen to you." On Van Triet's side, he was still tirelessly fighting the monsters. Because of this, Van Triet's level was increasing little by little. When a monster unleashed an attack towards him, Van Triet entered the mirror world. Immediately after, he appeared beside it and attacked. He swung his blade at the monster's body with immense force. However, that giant mountain beast's level was too high. Van Triet realized this. "No good, its defense is way too high. I'm only dealing this much damage, but its regeneration skill can probably heal it in an instant." He looked straight at the monster and thought, "As expected, I still need to get to that spot." The crystal core on top of its head is its nucleus, and that's also its weak point. Van Triet continued to strike the giant mountain beast, even though it barely made a dent. "It's just that my attack power isn't high enough." The system displayed, "Starlight Blessing, 5 seconds remaining." He calculated in his head, "The buffs those guys gave me are starting to wear off, and my mana points are already low, not enough to maintain the arcane blade for much longer." Van Triet made a decision. "I need to level up first." Suddenly, a cluster of mystical purple light appeared in his vision. Van Triet was stunned to realize this was the monster's hand, raised and about to strike him. Van Triet immediately entered the mirror world. "So you planned ahead and predicted where I would appear, huh?" As he exited the mirror world, the power from the monster's hand shot straight at Van Triet. The system chimed rapidly. "Your health has been reduced by 50 points. He remained calm, despite his body being covered in wounds. "This is a continuous wide-area attack. There isn't much time left for Mirror Jaunt. If I rely on it to dodge, it'll be completely consumed in an instant." The system displayed, "Mirror Jaunt, 3 minutes and 46 seconds remaining." Van Triet had no other choice. "I can only use my undead summons to block it, but restoring my summons consumes mana points. If I keep focusing my power on attacks after that, I won't have enough." A large shield suddenly appeared, shielding him. "You want to retreat and regroup first?" Van Triet, who was struggling to find a way out, was taken aback by this development. Qiu Qi, Van Sa, and Van had returned to help him. Van Triet was stunned. "Why are you all?" Van Sa explained. "Your little buddy here begged us so hard, so we had no choice but to come and support you." Qiuqi was displeased to hear that. "What do you mean, begged so hard? There aren't as many monsters as before. Everyone else over there has already escaped. I'm just—" He smiled faintly and said, "Thanks." Van Sa spoke up. "This hidden boss is still too dangerous. Let us cover you so you can slowly retreat from here." Van Triet felt as if his strength had been fully recharged. "There's no need. With everyone's support, I don't have to hold back anymore." The system notification appeared once again. Level up. The status window appeared. Name, Van Triet, level 30. A powerful energy radiated from him. "I've reached level 30. My attack power is finally high enough." Van Triet equipped the Corrupted Knight's armor, an item that requires level 30. Van Sa realized his intention. "Don't tell me you're planning to attack its weak point from above? There's no way you can reach that height." Van Triet paid her no mind and took out a book. "What I've wanted for so long, I finally have it now." Skill information, gravitational pull. Pulls the target object towards oneself. Pushing his body, the gravitational pull reversed, yanking him towards his target. Van Triet had found the perfect skill. This was the skill that pulled him towards his target. He powered up the black magic blade and spoke reassuringly. "Don't worry, I've got this all under control." Van Triet reached out towards the monster's head and activated the gravitational pull skill. The skill instantly yanked Van Triet right to the monster's head. He had reached the crystal core on its forehead. Below, Van Sa and Van looked up, completely stunned. Van Triet slashed relentlessly at the crystal core. The monster roared in pain as its weak point was attacked. It erupted with a ferocious burst of energy. He was hit with a wave of damage as system notifications flooded in. "Your HP has decreased by 107 points." Van Triet poured all of his remaining strength into his attacks, striking the core again and again. Finally, the crystal core shattered. A system notification appeared. "You have defeated the Wandering Overlord. You have gained 5,000 experience points. You have received the title Vagrant Slayer. The legendary grade skill books Golden Light Membrane and Angel's Protection have dropped." The three observers were speechless with shock. Qiuqi was the first to speak, filled with praise. "Van Triet is truly powerful." Van Sa, equally astonished, added, "He managed to defeat a terrifying monster like this all by himself?" Standing high above, Van Triet looked down and said, "And to think it actually dropped legendary grade items, 2 of them, at that. And what's more, the drops are." Suddenly, the monster lurched in its death throes, forcing Van Triet to dodge. The people below shouted up in alarm. "The monster's about to fall. Van Triet is still on top of it. Be careful." He dashed swiftly across its massive body. A great tremor shook the area as the entire body of the Wandering Overlord began to collapse. Van Triet glanced to the side and suddenly noticed something. In the direction he was looking, there was a small cave entrance. It was pitch black inside, leading deep into a hollow mountain, its depths impossible to see. Van Triet leaped high into the air to get a better view of the Wanderer and the human remains. He landed on a large boulder and looked up. It seems an even stronger Wandering Overlord was born here long ago. That would explain why there are so many signs of a fierce battle. Atop the mountain was the silhouette of a person, tightly gripping a sword that was plunged into the ground. The system panel immediately displayed the person's information. Kyo Bonbon, deceased. After reading it, Van Triet exclaimed in shock, Bon. He stood at the foot of the mountain, staring up. His entire body was enveloped in a purple glow. Kyuan's corpse was illuminated by the light, his cape still fluttering in the wind. Van Sa's eyes widened in disbelief as she asked, "Is that person the traitor Kyo-an? Even though they say this is where the hero Din Kon struck him down." She continued, looking at Kyuan's dignified posture. "I never imagined a scene like this." Van Sa composed herself, her gaze turning sharp. This is clearly the aftermath of a battle against countless monsters and humans. It's completely different from the statue in the Modern History Museum. This person doesn't look like someone who could be easily trampled. Van Triet frowned slightly, his gaze lowering as he remained silent. Qiuqi, standing behind them, suddenly spoke up. "You all probably won't believe me, but I don't think my great-grandfather was a heinous villain at all." He began to recount his own story. "Ever since I was little, I've read about my great-grandfather's history. But whenever it came to his specific experiences, the descriptions were always incredibly vague. However, I did manage to find a few details. He was always going to hidden dungeons that were completely inappropriate for his level. Tell me, why would he and S-rank, a class over level 60, come to a low-level hidden dungeon like this one? Because this is a hidden dungeon capable of nurturing a wandering overlord. And the wandering overlord is the source of the great catastrophe, capable of summoning all the monsters in a hidden dungeon into the outside world. Because of that, the government simply doesn't have enough troops to defend against all the wandering monsters that could emerge from these dungeons. And that's why they had to rely on a few strong, responsible class holders to periodically clear out the monsters in these hidden places. At this point, Kyuchi suddenly shouted, and my great-grandfather was one of them. He came here to extinguish the disaster before it could even begin. The other three listened in stunned silence, unable to say a word. His brow furrowed as he continued. You probably think I'm just making this all up, don't you? Kyuchi's hands were clenched so tightly they were shaking. My own family told me that I'm just looking for psychological comfort, that I'm twisting those words to mean what I want them to mean. Bantriette suddenly placed a hand on his shoulder, causing him to stop. He gave a gentle smile and said, I believe you. Seeing this, the two girls' cheeks immediately flushed pink. Kyuchi stared at him, wide-eyed, as if he couldn't believe his own ears. A light breeze blew, making Bantriette's hair sway with it. He definitely wasn't that kind of person. An image of a young boy flashed in his mind. I don't need a so-called master anyway. The boy winked and smiled, so full of himself. With my natural talent, it won't be long before I'm stronger than you. An old man like you should just retire early. But when he was attacked by a horde of goblins, the kid cried and screamed, Master, save me. Yet, as his master bandaged his wounds, he completely changed his tune. Who needed you to save them? Don't save me next time. I just miscalculated. This dungeon has so many monsters. In the blink of an eye, that little kid has grown up. So you found me again, have you? He pointed a thumb at himself with a wide grin. That's right. I'm the type of guy who secretly works his ass off, then comes back to show off in front of everyone. Don't worry. The dungeon we're heading to isn't life-threatening, Qiaoan said, carrying a massive sword and a giant shield. Why would you choose the sword guard class for your advancement? The sword guard is considered the weakest of all the shield bearer's advanced classes. A hint of anger showed on his face. But isn't that because you focus almost exclusively on strength and speed? You always charge straight ahead. Basically, no shield-type class can keep up with you. Qiaoan's face was covered in blood as he leaned on his sword and shield. My old friend, I finally found you. He managed a tired smile after the battle. I get it. Leaving the team without permission. That's a 3-month pay deduction. I ran into so many wandering monsters that I couldn't help but level up. Saving people, that was just on the way. Back in the present, a glint appeared in Yunche's eyes. Ben, for your sake, I will make the Ding family pay. Elsewhere, in a large and luxurious room, a man asked in disbelief, Is what you're saying true? Dingshu spoke loudly and insisted. It's the truth. If you don't believe me, Dad, just ask the teacher in charge of the dungeon. That Yunche guy is that strong. He quickly recounted everything to his father. The teacher guarding the dungeon blocked me at the entrance and wouldn't let me in. I really can't let you enter. Your level is still too low. But as the people inside started coming out, they began to chatter excitedly. Did you guys see that just now? I saw the wandering lord collapse from a distance. The person next to him replied, with a commotion that huge, who wouldn't have seen it? The two people in front were also whispering, I'm afraid he was the one who killed it. So incredible. That was a rare hidden boss over level 40. Just being able to control it is beyond my imagination. Upon hearing the name mentioned, Dingshu's face darkened. That person's name is Yunche, isn't it? I thought Yun Sha and her group were already impressive enough. I never expected there was another student who was this powerful. Just what is his background? The room suddenly fell silent, with no one saying a word. Suddenly, someone pushed himself up from his knees and stood, summoning the Ding family guards. Follow me. We're going to capture the dungeon traitor. Dingshu's father immediately stopped him. Wait a moment. Did you say earlier that the little brat from the Qiao family was also with them? His face turned sinister. In that case, drag the Qiao family member along with them. The third master of the Ding family stood up and said, Summon the Ding family's elite guards and follow me to the traitor's dungeon. Then, he suddenly spoke up again. Hold on. You said that brat from the Qiao family was with him too? With a dark and terrifying expression, he said, Drag the Qiao family member along. Meanwhile, Yun Che appeared. He opened his system panel, and the Golden Light Barrier skill book appeared. Yun Che immediately took it out and offered it to him. Here, you learn this skill book. It has no level requirement. The others stared at the book in astonishment. Yun Sha also spoke up. That's a legendary grade skill, and you're just giving it away like that? Yun-che replied. It's a specialized skill for shield bearers. I can't even learn it. This is the same skill your great-grandfather used to use. Hearing this, Yun-sha smiled and said, well, it's not like you're short on powerful skills yourself. She shrugged. Technically, my skills are all high grade, but they're nothing compared to yours. Whether it's that skill that lets you suddenly disappear, or the one that can summon so many undead spirits. Hearing that, he froze, a thought repeating in his mind. Undead spirits. I remember now. The undead I summon are all created from souls. Besides my own, other souls can also enter the mirror world. His eyes widened in shock as he raised his hand. The mirror world instantly appeared. The skill had refreshed. Action in the mirror. Time remaining, 29 minutes and 595 seconds. Yun-che was stunned. I can use it. A flood of images appeared before his eyes, and a blurry figure slowly took shape in front of him. He called out, Ben, Ben. Back in the real world, Yun-sha was sitting down when the girl next to her reminded her, Yun-sha, we should get going. You have the reception ceremony soon. Hearing this, she sighed. Ah, you're right. I can't delay any longer. It's clearly much more interesting here. She then stood up from the cliff's edge. Just what in the world is Yun-che doing? Having vanished for so long without a trace, he now found himself in the mirror world. Before him stood a figure wielding a sword. A hazy spirit appeared above the man's head. Bon Bon. I never thought we'd meet again. I have so much I want to tell you too. Seeing that the boy was no longer conscious, Van Triet said regretfully, it's just such a shame. Just then, darkness enveloped Bon Bon's body. His once gentle and pure appearance instantly twisted, becoming ferocious. You can't come back. Van Triet quickly backed away. So he really has turned into a wraith, but I don't want to fight him. The wraith's shadowy form relentlessly pursued Van Triet. Van Triet's eyes flared with light, allowing him to see through the illusions of this place. Instantly, images of Bon Bon's life, from when he was alive to the moment tragedy struck, flashed before him. Another image appeared, this time of him as a child. Van Triet paused. It was a memory of him constantly fighting with others. Van Triet realized he was witnessing everything Bon Bon had gone through. The scene then shifted to him being attacked from behind. Din Kon. Van Triet was confused. Why? Why does his stance feel so familiar? At that moment, the sound of shattering glass echoed through the space. The mirror shards surrounding Van Triet broke apart, revealing Bon Bon standing before him. What in the world happened? He called out, Bon Bon? But by now, the boy had lost all reason and lunged at Van Triet. He quickly parried the attack and spoke again. Bon Bon? He received no answer as the boy swung his blade straight at him again. He quickly dodged again, thinking, he's only moving on combat instinct. With that, Van Triet decided to leave this place. However, a system notification suddenly appeared. Current area. Exit from Mirror World is impossible. He was shocked. I can't leave? Van Triet let out a sigh. Looks like I have no choice but to fight my way out. Outside, Kyochi was startled when an aggressive group of men approached. Well, look what we have here. Why are you all alone? Where's that Van Triet fellow? Did he sense us coming and run away with his tail between his legs? The leader jeered, turning to his men. Well, that just takes half the fun out of it. Kyochi spoke. Din Hook. He lowered his voice. What are you all doing here? Came to level up? He shot back. Don't play dumb with me, you little Kyo punk. Weren't you and Van Triet the ones who snuck into my house and stole from me? Kyochi replied, flustered. I didn't. You're mistaken, sir. The man continued. You really think I couldn't recognize the sound of your screams? Hearing this, Kyochi's face froze in horror. The man raised a hand and said, but really, none of that is important. Because I brought a little gift for you. At these words, Kyochi's heart pounded with fear. Behind them, his men dragged Kyochi's entire family forward. Kyochi cried out in despair. Great uncle, grandma, second uncle, auntie. Then, he saw a woman's worried face. It was his mother. Suddenly, Kyochi's grandfather screamed at him, Get on your knees, you worthless beast. Apologize to the heroic family right now. And apologize to young Master Din Hook. Kyochi stammered. Grandpa, I won't. But his grandfather just kept shouting. What have I taught you all these years? What must you do when you see a member of the Din family? Kneel. At this, Kyochi finally snapped. Are we, the Q family, destined to be the Din family's dogs for generation after generation? The Q family fell into a stunned silence. Just then, a man knelt down, saying, That's right. We are the descendants of wicked traitors. We should be grateful they even let us be their dogs. His young aunt then spoke, her voice trembling. Kyochi, are you trying to get our whole family killed? Think about your parents, his aunt continued to plead. Think of how hard your mother has worked to raise this family, especially with your father being insane. All the while, his mother trembled, remaining silent. Kyuchi remained silent. Then, he pointed behind him and said, "Everyone, please, look behind you. Our great-grandfather came to this secret realm to resolve the calamity of the past. It's clear now that he only fell because he was ambushed by overwhelming numbers." He continued with a faint smile. "I've been collecting information about great-grandfather for a long time, but I was always missing that one piece of conclusive evidence." Kyuchi's voice grew firm, "But now I have it. Great-grandfather was not some vile traitor. The truth is completely different from the lies they've been spreading." His family listened in silence. "Once this truth is made public, our great-grandfather's name will finally be cleared. We won't have to live like this anymore." He gritted his teeth. "The Din family has no right to treat us this way." By now, he was speaking with strength and clarity. "Our grandfathers, our uncles, none of them deserve to die the way they did." Suddenly, Din Hook burst out laughing. "How childish. But yes, everything you said is correct." Din Hook stepped forward, a smirk on his face. "Every single word you just said is true. Your great-grandfather was indeed ambushed, but died. He wasn't really some kind of villain." Hearing this, his expression immediately grew wary. He continued, "To be more precise, my great-grandfather got rich back then by ambushing Qiao En." He laughed contemptuously in Qiao Ji's face and said, "But who cares about that?" Old Ding cackled with glee. Qiao En was a traitor to the empire. He was just an ugly villain. At that, his whole group of cronies burst out laughing with him. He continued, "So, what if I kill your crazy dad? What would you do if I killed those people? All you descendants of traitors are just that pathetic." He pointed a finger at Qiao Ji's family. He said, "In fact, even your family members here all know about it." At this, every one of their faces turned to horror. They didn't dare to meet his eyes. Hearing this, Qiao Ji's face was completely stunned. The man laughed and continued, "Otherwise, how do you think those people you reported ended up dead?" Third, Master Ding then adjusted his clothes, smiled, and said, "Kneel." The entire family immediately obeyed and knelt before him. His mother also spoke up urgently. "Aji, I'm begging you, son. Just admit you were wrong. Don't fight back anymore. It's useless." Her face was now streaming with tears as she said, "I really don't want to lose my son after my husband already went mad." Her voice broke into a sob. I really can't take it anymore." Hearing this, Qiaozhi began to tremble with rage. He subconsciously recalled his mother's radiant smile. "Aji, don't mind those people. You are the best." Just then, another goon suddenly burst out laughing. Ding Shu, losing his patience, immediately kicked towards Qiaozhi, yelling, "Stop dragging your feet. Still don't know what's good for you? Whether you kneel or not, you're going to kneel." But he suddenly raised his hand, blocking the kick. Immediately after, Qiaozhi grabbed his leg and yanked it upwards. He then forcefully slammed him to the ground. Qiaozhi looked at them and declared with determination, "I'm not kneeling anymore." Ding Shu scoffed, then immediately drew his weapon and said, "An improvement. You dare to raise a hand against me?" He rushed forward, roaring, "Let me remind you what it feels like to be a punching bag." But this time, he didn't hold back at all, landing a direct punch straight into the man's face. Ding Shu was stunned by the blow, utterly confused. How could this be? Qiaozhi had now brought out his shield. He spoke softly, "Mom, we are the descendants of a hero." He then immediately punched the guy in the face again, venting his fury. Seeing this, Third Master Ding frowned in anger. "Oh?" Ding Shu was beaten into a daze, clutching his face. "How is this possible?" He gritted his teeth, his voice full of jealous hatred. "How could even you suddenly become stronger?" He instantly lost his mind and charged at Qiaozhi to fight. "You're just a punching bag. From the day you were born, you've been nothing but a punching bag. On what grounds?" He swung his weapon wildly. However, Qiaozhi easily punched him square in the face, smashing it into the ground. Qiaozhi looked down coldly and said, "I'm not the same person I was before." In the mirror world, Yunche was fighting Ben Ben. As he fought him, Yunche thought, "This is Ben Ben's peak form. I'm still far weaker than him right now." At that moment, he was activating his shield, preparing to attack. Yunche calculated internally. If he wasn't a defense-type class, and if he wasn't unconscious right now, I would have been suppressed in an instant. He quickly fell back. And so, Yunche leaped up, dodging Ben Ben's attack. But I'm the one who taught him his fighting techniques. He turned back to attack Ben Ben, so I know all of his openings. However, his strength stat is still incredibly high. He's a defensive build, after all. After reaching a job advancement level over 60, Even stacking my Bloodblade skill won't deal much damage. Just then, his entire body erupted in fierce flames. He quickly activated the legendary grade skill, Golden Light Shield. He dodged the flames. Yunche frowned in annoyance. What a pain. An explosion of fire then erupted. Elsewhere, outside, another battle was raging. The other guy charged forward aggressively. A mutt like you dares to cause trouble. Qiao Ji quickly blocked with his shield, and in the next moment, slapped the guy hard across the face. And just like that, in front of everyone, Qiao Ji rushed forward and beat the man to a pulp. On the sidelines, Third Master Ding began to speak, his voice laced with fury. Ah, Shu, you can't even beat that little brat from the Qiao family now. He immediately rushed towards Qiao Zhi. How about I vent your anger for you? With blinding speed, his fist collided with Qiao Zi's shield. A dazzling light instantly flashed, startling him. At that moment, a golden circle enveloped them, blocking him from getting inside. He instantly recognized it as the Golden Light Shield. From inside, Qiao Ji said, "You just stand there and watch. So much for a family of heroes. You're nothing but cowards who don't even dare to fight one-on-one." With that, he unleashed a continuous barrage of attacks, radiating a brilliant light. Over on the other side, Van Trich was also in the middle of a fight. He leaped up, activating Diamond Aegis. As a legendary tier skill, its defensive power has nothing to do with the user's own defense stats. Van Trich quickly descended. As long as it doesn't take a single hit that exceeds twice its upper limit, it can withstand at least 10 attacks. A brilliant golden light enveloped him, but it's also a skill that consumes energy with each hit. Right now, that golden light was gradually showing signs of shattering. Even the smallest amount of damage will drain its energy. A moment later, the defensive layer shattered. Once its energy is depleted, any attack on the 10th accumulated hit will break it. The old man cursed under his breath. "You little bastard. So what if you have the Diamond Aegis?" He looked down at him and said, "I wouldn't even spare a glance for the garbage that trash Kyoan used." Kyuchi didn't back down, retorting, "If my great-grandfather were still here, you'd be on your knees begging for mercy." Hearing this, the old man immediately launched an attack. Kyuchi quickly raised his shield to protect himself, while Din Hook was pushed forward. The old man sneered. Relying on a failure who died in a low-level secret realm? The third master of the Din family stomped on the ground and said, "If he came here." At that moment, the ground immediately cracked and rose up. Gravity crush. The old man continued. He'd have to kneel too. Instantly, Kyochi's entire body was covered in injuries. Blood spurted from his mouth and body. The old man, weapon in hand, advanced like a demon. "Let's see how you'll stand after I chop off both your legs." He immediately leaped up, preparing to strike. His mother suddenly ran out, pleading, "Third master, Kyochi is still young and doesn't know any better. Please spare him." She sobbed uncontrollably. "I'm kneeling before you. Do whatever you want with me." Seeing this, the old man let out a soft chuckle. "All right then, how about this, you little brat?" Facing Kyochi's resentful expression, the old man continued, "If you don't kneel, I'll cut your mother down." Then he suddenly changed his mind, saying, "Ah, forget it. It's not like I'm short on people I can cut down anyway." The man named Din swung his weapon back. Seeing this, Kyochi panicked. "Wait, I'll..." Before he could finish, a massive tremor shook the ground. The dust and smoke ahead obscured everything. Everyone present stared at the scene before them, their mouths agape in astonishment. The man named Din stared in shock at what was before him as a phantom materialized. He stammered, "Why, you're Kyo-an?" Kyochi's mother saw this and stuttered, "Gi grandfather." The others also panicked. Kyo-an appeared again? Impossible. How can this be? You're dead. How could you be alive again? On the other side, Kyochi's family also murmured. That form looks more like an undead spirit. Van Trix's voice rang out. All of you looked down on him so much before. He now stood beside Kyoan's undead spirit and said, so he had no choice but to crawl back from hell to settle the score with all of you. At this moment, everyone present stared dumbfounded at the undead spirit before them, unable to believe their own eyes. The old man from the Din family, however, just laughed. Trying to play tricks on me? Get him. His subordinates heard the command and immediately rushed forward, weapons raised in a frenzied attack. They all struck their weapons against the undead spirit's shield. The undead spirit was surrounded by them, but it showed no signs of weakening as they relentlessly attacked from all directions. At the undead Kyo-an. Kyochi's grandfather saw this and gasped in amazement. So strong. Is that really Kyo-an? Seeing the opponent's technique, Kyochi's eyes also widened in shock. This blocking technique, it can parry so many attacks at once. It's just too incredible. On the other side, the old man spoke with full confidence. This is the spirit you summoned, isn't it? My family used to summon piles of this kind of trash back in the day. The third master raised his weapon and laughed. Its level is only a mere 33. He immediately leaped forward to strike. This undead spirit of Kyo-an is nothing but a small fry. However, as soon as his weapon descended, it was immediately caught by a sticky slime that radiated a dark aura. Seeing this, the third master was stunned. Two streams of mana collided as his hand gathered a surge of combat mana. Next, he swung his attack forward. Under absolute power, everything else is useless, and immediately activated his summon collision skill. The third master laughed confidently as he charged in for a direct melee with the undead spirit. But just then, a golden ring of light sent the third master flying. How annoying. It's that diamond Aegis again. Van Trick spoke up from behind. Even if Bonbon has turned into an undead spirit, he's still an S-rank undead. With the diamond Aegis, he's more than enough to keep you busy for a while. At this point, the old man shouted to the others, "Charge together, we can drain its energy in no time." However, the moment he turned around, he froze. His subordinates were now surrounded and being attacked by another horde of undead spirits. At this point, the third master began to enhance his body. This is getting a little troublesome. His entire body immediately erupted in brilliant red flames. Scorching blaze, Kyo-an, undead spirit. It doesn't matter. They're just a bunch of summons. He dashed forward at high speed, aiming to attack Van Trick. All he had to do was kill the summoner. If the summoner is you, then the summoned creature will naturally disappear. The third master's hand then transformed into a sharp claw. He confidently thought to himself, "I'm decked out in high-level gear given to me by Master Gu. You think you can fight me with what you have?" Immediately after, Van Trick surprisingly vanished from the spot, completely unharmed. The third master was bewildered by this. What's going on? How could he be completely unscathed? He continued to attack the spot where he stood, but his image just vanished again. Seeing this, his eyes widened. He's gone. Then, suddenly, Van Trick appeared above him. He immediately plunged his sword into the third master's back, giving him no time to react. The man instantly used his mana to blast Van Trick away. Van Trick glanced over at Kyo-an and said softly, "Bon bon." The undead spirit immediately pulled out its sword. Right after that, Van Trick used the momentum to step onto the undead spirit's sword. In one fluid motion, he slashed across the third master's body. The man looked at Van Trick and couldn't stop himself from cursing, but Van Trick quickly turned back around. With a sharp glint in his eyes, he raised his sword. Using his incredible speed, he landed a dozen slashes on the man's body. A moment later, the third master screamed in terror, "My arm!" His arm fell to the ground, completely severed. Panicked, he immediately turned and yelled, "Priest, heal me." But before the third master could find a way to restore his arm, Van Trick had already appeared. He instantly activated Gravity Strike, causing rocks and earth to rise from below. He roared, "Get lost!" Van Trick vanished again, then reappeared in another location like an illusion. He looked at the third master and asked coldly, "How about it? Scared yet?" The man didn't bother answering and just kept screaming, "Priest, what are you waiting for? Heal me already." But on the other side, that priest had already been attacked and killed by the undead spirit. One by one, all of his subordinates were left lying on the ground at the hands of the undead spirit. He stammered, "Since when?" Van Trick stood amongst his undead and said, "Do you still think my spirits have the same strength they did when they were in your house?" Van Trick activated Reverse Evil God's Mantle again. He smiled and said, "Maintained by a legendary grade skill. They are far beyond what the tomb guards dropped by the Wandering Overlord could ever handle." Seeing this, the man's face turned pale with fear. The third master immediately turned to flee, cursing to himself, "Damn it, run!" But just then, a massive sword plunged into the ground. It blocked his escape route. He tried to run in another direction, but was blocked again. Only then did the third master feel true fear and turn back to look. At that moment, the ground beneath his feet began to rise. Huge figures emerged. Van Trick had now entered his possession state and said, "This is the exclusive skill of the Sword Guard class, the absolute sword shield formation." He walked towards the man, saying, "No one below S rank can escape this. You can try again." Just then, the man pulled something out and said, "Don't come any closer." The third master hastily continued, "In my hand is a void bomb, an S-rank item my father gave me. If this thing goes off, with your low-level HP, you're definitely dead." Van Trick's expression didn't change as he calmly looked at him. Van Trick said nonchalantly, "Detonate it." Hearing this, the man screamed in a panic, "Are you trying to die?" With my HP, even if it explodes, I can survive. But the undead spirit continued to advance. Even if you blow Bonbon to bits, I can just resurrect him. In his possessed state, Van Triet appeared behind the man at top speed. As for me, you can't even touch me with that blast. With an ice-cold gaze, he swung his sword down. Van Triet directly sliced off the man's remaining arm with his sword. The void bomb fell to the ground. Van Triet said coldly, "Kneel." Now with no arms, the man silently knelt in terror. Seeing this scene, Q-Chi was overjoyed. On the other side, Din Hook, who had been beaten to a pulp, watched while sobbing. Van Triet stepped on the man's back with utter contempt. He mocked him, asking, "Tell me, do you think you have any value left at all?" A moment later, Van Triet opened his inventory to check. There were quite a few miscellaneous items, and even hundreds of life potions. He checked the item's stats. Life potion restores 100 health points over 10 seconds. Effect cannot be stacked. Looking at the item, he said, "But with the slow recovery speed of this life potion, even if you had used it back then, it would have been a drop in the ocean. You still would have died." Just then, Van Triet glanced over at his undead spirit. He recalled that after he had killed the man, his soul had appeared in the mirror world. So, he conveniently took him in as an undead spirit. Van Triet thought to himself, "So it's true. I can acquire high-level undead by killing people." Then he looked at Din Hook, who was lying on the ground, foaming at the mouth. "But I'll let him live for now. He'll be useful later." At that moment, Q-Chi's family watched Van Triet from a distance, saying, "To be so young, yet so powerful." He looked towards Q-Chi and his mother and said, "He was the one who guided A-Chi." What? A-Chi's heart has truly grown much stronger now. At that moment, his family member worriedly asked, "But, what's going to happen to us now?" He fretted. "The third master is dead. The Ding family will definitely seek revenge. We're dead for sure." The more he spoke, the more terrified he became. Even if that young man is strong, there's absolutely no way he'll survive after attacking a hero. If the hero could kill our ancestor decades ago, he can only be stronger now. Meanwhile, Van Triet understood this well and thought to himself, "Exactly. If what happened here gets exposed, I won't have much time left to increase my power." He thought about that person they call a hero. "I have to level up quickly to be strong enough to deal with that bastard Ding Kon." At that same moment, the system announced that Van Triet had leveled up. He was a bit surprised to hear it. "I leveled up?" With that thought, Van Triet immediately commanded his undead spirits to fly off. It seemed that sending the undead spirits to grind monsters was quite effective. After that, the spirits began to fight monsters. Van Triet thought, based on the undead spirits' current level and equipment, they can completely dominate this place. And just like that, the monsters were easily defeated by the undead spirits. Van Triet also felt that this secret realm was no longer sufficient to support his rapid leveling process. Right now, he was thinking through the eyes of the undead spirit Q-On. "That's why I sent them out." There's also a more important reason. At that moment, the undead spirit Q-On had found the boss of this secret realm. Immediately after, the spirit charged forward, launching a surprise attack on the monster. Unlike the wandering overlord, this hidden boss, the secret realm's overlord, was the core of the entire secret realm. And so, the undead spirit Kyo-An rushed in, activating Sword Shield. Domain. As long as it's killed, the entire secret realm will be conquered. At that point, the realm will naturally disappear. Elsewhere, the entrance to this secret realm was being guarded by instructors. Before, when Old Third Ding brought the Q family members into the secret realm, they must have been seen. If the Q family members were to leave by themselves now, they would definitely arouse suspicion. Therefore, the only way is to directly conquer the secret realm and make it disappear, so the Q family can use the ensuing chaos to escape. And so, the undead spirit Kyo and continuously attacked the secret realm's boss. This way, the Ding family will have no way to confirm Old Third Ding's death, which will buy me more time. Immediately after, he proceeded to level up by one more level. The system announced that he had defeated the secret realm's overlord, successfully conquering it. Just as the announcement finished, the people there felt something strange. They shouted, "The secret realm is starting to disappear." Van Triet walked over and told them, "The realm's disappearance will cause chaos." Faced with Old Third Ding's disappearance, the Ding family won't react quickly. He turned and said to them, "After you all use the chaos to leave this place, you won't be in any danger for a short while." Van Triet continued, his eyes calm, "But, if you're really investigated and pressured, just put all the blame on me." Hearing this, the people there were stunned, and just like that, the scenery of the secret realm gradually faded away, while Van Triet also summoned his undead spirits. At that very moment, the progress panel for the mirror world appeared again. He was surprised to see it. A series of points were added for Van Triet, along with various items. Seeing this, he thought to himself, so, it turns out the experience points needed to level up the mirror world to level 3 can only be earned by killing secret realm overlords. Is that it? The last time the mirror world leveled up, it gave me a huge boost. If I level it up again, it will definitely help me quickly close the gap between me and Ding Kun. Outside, the group of people guarding the secret realm's gate were looking serious. One man couldn't help but sigh. Do we really need to be this serious? He said, rubbing his head. Who would dare to trespass into this private secret realm? We might as well sneak in a game of cards. However, at that moment, Van Triet had suddenly appeared behind him without a sound. After that, Van Triet walked into the gate. The man felt something strange and quickly turned to look back, wondering, why do I feel like someone was behind me? Was I mistaken? Van Triet had already entered the gate, calculating to himself, the civilian guards are at most level 30, so these private secret realms have practically no defense against me. And so, Van Triet passed through, without any obstacles. The further he went, the more Van Triet told himself, soon. Just like that, the other people panicked, jumping, and looking in Van Triet's direction, unable to do anything. It's almost time, Van Triet thought to himself. He would soon be able to kill that bastard. But before that, I need to hold back. While fighting monsters inside the secret realms, Van Triet told himself, I must be calm. His level continued to rise. He tried to tell himself to stay calm, to avoid making any mistakes. Van Triet, continuously, leveled up every time he fought monsters. Then, he went on to kill another secret realm overlord. Level up, +1. After that, upon killing another monster, Van Triet stood tall and looked up at the sky, calm. In the daily news articles, a series of reports appeared about private secret realms being maliciously conquered. At the same time as these articles, with that, his mirror world skill experience points increased by 5,000 each time, repeating endlessly. Right after, a new article was published. Recently, vandals have been destroying secret realms, with many private realms being maliciously and secretly conquered. The Public Security Bureau took this matter very seriously and dispatched high-ranking police officers to investigate. At that moment, they were reading the article in another location when someone spoke up. Is this the work of that Van Triet kid? Grandpa Q looked down at the article in astonishment. So many secret realms suddenly being conquered. This must be related to the conquered realm we went to last time. At this thought, he broke into a nervous sweat. At this rate, the Din family's attention will be drawn to him. Immediately after, Mr. Q realized, he's doing all this for us. Otherwise, we never would have been able to escape from that place. After the Q family read the article, the second son said, this place is several days' journey from the Din family's home and is very secluded. It was so difficult to cover our tracks without leaving a single trace. He was filled with anxiety and worry. The other two spoke joyfully. Now that we're here, we don't have to worry anymore. That's right. We're finally safe. We've probably escaped the Din family for good. But just then, a loud noise suddenly echoed from outside, an explosion that made all four of them whip their heads around in shock. Figures approached from the outside, saying, escape us? The person who had arrived was Din Hao, the second master of the family. He spoke with contempt. Did you really think we would chase after a single criminal? Even if you have no connection to the criminal, just daring to run away from the Din family. He glared viciously at them and said, is reason enough for me to come say hello? Besides, are you perhaps looking down on a family of heroes? He then stepped down and walked inside, saying, not to mention you delusional traitors. He shouted angrily, we've even tracked down that criminal's whereabouts. At this moment, Van Triet was also at the gate of another secret realm, the Hero's Realm. Van Triet had now reached level 42. He stood with his hands in his pockets and said, Din Kun, I'm here for you. Van Triet gazed into the distance, deep in thought. The private secret realms from before only gave good experience points up to level 30 or so. Continuing there would really reduce his leveling efficiency. But higher-level secret realms, like the Hero's Realm, were all managed by the state, with the military guarding a 2-kilometer perimeter. No one could get close. And this time, entering the mirror world only allows me to scout a 200-meter radius. It's impossible to sneak into these realms without being detected. Looks like I'll have to rely on her. Bansa had a mischievous look in her eyes. So, you asked me here because you want me to get you inside? No can do. I don't know how much you understand about my status, but even I can't get in without an access pass. As soon as Van Saw finished speaking, Van Triet immediately pulled out 2 passes and held them up. Van Saw took the pass, a confused look on her face. You were already prepared. A temporary pass requires an escort to avoid being investigated. So, you bypass the Din family and want to enter this secret realm undetected. Why? You saw Kyo-an's demeanor in that traitor's realm. If Kyo-an isn't as evil as the propaganda claims, then there might be something wrong with the betrayal incident from back then. I want to help you. Help the Kyu family clear their name. I want to find the hero and get a clear answer. Van Saw frowned helplessly. Do you take me for an idiot? Let's not even talk about offending a hero for a complete stranger like Kyo-an. You've already snuck into the Din family's estate before. Don't tell me you foresaw Kyo-an's situation, and so you went to steal this pass in advance? Besides, not long ago, in that traitor's realm, Elder Din was specifically looking to cause trouble for you and Kyo-an, but he disappeared afterward and still hasn't been found. This clearly doesn't seem like you're just looking for a confrontation with the hero. Van Saw moved closer, lowering her voice as she continued. It's more like you have some other design on the hero. Also, your name is Van Triet. Your surname is Van. Could you possibly be related to that traitor Van Triet from back then? He shrugged, feigning innocence as he replied, Isn't your surname also Van? Could it be that you're related to the traitor Van Triet? Hearing this, Van Saw quickly denied it. She lowered her eyes, a hint of sadness on her face. Actually, my surname isn't Van. I just changed it because I didn't want to be bothered. A smirk played on Van Triet's lips, his voice laced with amusement. Then how do you know my real surname is Van? Van Saw retorted irritably. Aren't you afraid I'll expose you? You don't sound like someone asking for a favor. If I reported you directly to the military, you'd be dead for sure. Van Triet lowered his head slightly, remaining silent. A moment later, he looked up, his voice firm and resolute. I believe you won't do that. Van Saw was stunned, her eyes wide with surprise. Van Triet stepped closer, but she tried to back away. I believe that someone who would step forward for students despite the danger in a secret realm wouldn't help the Din family. This is a diary I stole from the Din estate. You can see for yourself how many evil deeds the hero Din Kon's descendants have committed. Those people, he uses the fact that he's a hero's descendant to bully innocent girls and do all sorts of disgusting things. Van Saw held the book in her hand, replying with a scornful tone. Just for that? Then you've miscalculated. She doesn't care about those things. On the contrary, it's you. I thought you were calm and steady, but you so easily placed your life in her hands. How naive of you. Have you never experienced betrayal before? Van Triet's eyes were full of thought. He gave a faint smile, as if asking himself, betrayal? Van Saw crossed her arms and turned slightly, her voice somewhat hesitant. Van Triet lowered his head, his face cold and expressionless, and slowly continued. What does it matter if I have or not? I wouldn't stop trusting people just because of something like that. He stepped forward confidently. Dry leaves swirled around them, the air thick with tension. I'm even more convinced that she's not a bad person at heart. Van Saw's face went pale, sweat pouring down like rain. You, on the other hand, don't look like a good person. If you really trust her that much, then go ahead and follow her. Let's see if I don't double-cross you and report you along the way. Van Saw walked away quickly, putting some distance between them, while he silently followed behind. Van Saw pursed her lips and glanced back. She couldn't believe that even now, she was still considered a good and trustworthy person. There's a hero who has been waiting for several days. Is that Miss Saw? We've been instructed that Miss Saw can enter directly, but why isn't she with Elder Din Dan? The Elder just entered the secret realm. Is that person in the cloak her bodyguard? Van Saw replied with a cold expression. Don't be suspicious. He's the person the Elder mentioned before he went in. His pass was temporarily stolen, so we have to be extremely careful. Not suspicious of her? Then, what do you call this? An interrogation? The man instinctively stood up straight and explained hastily. Of course not. It's mainly because we've received a security alert. The criminal who has been maliciously raiding secret realms was recently spotted heading towards the hero's secret realm. Van Saw glanced over at him, smiling smugly to herself. The man's face showed a hint of worry. He was only concerned for her safety, just following regulations. What if the bodyguard has been replaced? Van Saw let out a sigh of relief, having deflected the question from herself. She turned and whispered, He insists on investigating that person. She moved closer, wrapping an arm around Van Triet's neck, which startled him. Fine, just let them check. So he thinks I can't recognize my own bodyguard? Maybe I've been replaced too. Why don't you investigate me as well? The man's face turned pale as he trembled and said, I wouldn't dare. If Miss Saw is so certain, then there's definitely no mistake. Please, go in. She held her head high and walked confidently ahead, while he still followed silently behind. Upon entering the secret realm, Van Triet thought to himself, her status seems to be even higher than I imagined. Vansa spoke with a firm tone, because of your trust in me. I've brought you inside this time. I don't care what you want to do, but this is as far as it goes. I won't help you any further. Van Triet immediately summoned a figure. Thank you. She can take it with her, and whatever I do next, they won't suspect her. Vansa's face darkened as she gritted her teeth and replied, it seems you do have some conscience after all. Her figure gradually faded into the distance. The system panel immediately lit up with a notification. The mirror world can finally be used this time. The ability after the mirror world has been upgraded to level 3. A system notification read, you have used the level 3 mirror world to expand the anchor area of the secret realm. Van Triet sank into thought. The level 3 mirror world can copy the secret realm's monsters from the real world. From now on, I can freely grind monsters in the mirror world without having to worry about being discovered. He stepped outside, and the system chimed again. You have left the mirror world, Van Triet thought to himself. More importantly, even if I leave the mirror world, the undead can stay there and grind levels for me. To think they built an entire castle inside a secret realm. For now, I should scout the surroundings first. A magnificent castle with soaring spires stood in the middle of a forest. The scene was grand and silent, filled with an air of mystery. His gaze was distant, but his mind was in turmoil. According to the information in the Din family's journal, that is where Din Kon is. I know very little about him. I only know that he reached S-rank several decades ago, and after that, it seems he never revealed his true strength in front of anyone again. Even Old Master Din III isn't sure. If I had more detailed intelligence, my chances of dealing with him would be much higher. In my previous life, all S-rank individuals were known, but he just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Van Triet turned around, his voice full of doubt. Does it know who he is? Bonbon just stared blankly. Its vacant eyes just stared, unblinking. After a moment, it automatically started walking in another direction. He felt completely helpless. Still no good? It's clear that when the mirror world reached level 3, the intelligence of the undead also increased noticeably. Its improvement was the most obvious of them all, but it still hasn't reached a level where it can communicate. Perhaps if the mirror world continues to level up, Bonbon will regain more of its consciousness? From within Sahua Castle, the sound of an argument could be heard. He usually dotes on third brother the most, so he can't just sit back and do nothing. Din An stepped closer to Din Kon. Third brother's whereabouts are still unknown. According to news from the Security Bureau, that criminal, actually, and yet he dares to come near this hero's mystic realm. He slowly sat up, his shining armor making no sound at all. He's still rambling on. To be able to grab me so silently, I fear he's already reached S rank. Of course, if I can just get the class advancement certificate. Suddenly, a hand pierced through Din Han's chest, sending blood splattering everywhere. Din Kon growled, "You're this old, and you can't even stop a single brat, and now you dare to lecture me on how to do my job?" His eyes widened in horror, his face pale with pain. A cold glint flashed in the old man's eyes. This brat just reached S rank and received his class advancement quest. He won't even be able to withstand a single blow from me. It was difficult enough for him to keep a useless piece of trash like him around, just so he could take better care of his grandson. But in the end, not only did I lose my man, but now he expects me to clean up his messes. Do you have any idea? Losing my man is like losing a family member. It's taken years off my life. You hear me? Din Hangan sat arrogantly on top of a man. He ordered his wolves to attack the townspeople. Loot them. Hurry up and take everything. The fierce wolves growled, making the little girl burst into terrified sobs. Din Ngan said scornfully, "Once you're eaten, there'll be nothing left." A cloaked figure approached and suggested in a low voice, "Young master, your pets haven't eaten meat in days." Van Triet was hidden in a secluded corner, watching everything. Compared to this place, the Din family outside the mystic realm was incredibly restrained. His eyes turned fierce, radiating a chilling, killing intent. Do I have to reveal myself? As if suddenly realizing something, Van Triet turned around. Bon Bon was seething with rage, its entire body enveloped in streams of black aura. Bon Bon spoke in a low voice. "Even in a state like this, you still want to save people?" Among the children in the Genius Zone back then, you and Lan Kan were the kindest and the strongest. That's why you took them in as your students, trained them, hoping that after they became stronger, they would help others. But in the end, I'm the one who harmed you, turning it into what it is now. Suddenly, Bon Bon spoke. Lan Kan. Van Triet was confused. "What did you say?" he asked, surprised. "Have you regained consciousness?" Bon Bon struggled to speak. Lan Kan is Din Kun. Hearing this, Van Triet's eyes widened in utter shock. Elsewhere, the man named Din Kun heard the familiar name Van Triet. He assumed whoever was using this name was deliberately provoking him. He never expected to hear that name again after all these years. A sinister smile spread across his face. Let's see who dares to impersonate my beloved master. The scene changes. Din Jingan is coddling his monsters. You're all my good little treasures. I've been busy taking care of my other pets these past few days. You're all starving, aren't you? Then, he frantically pointed at the people lying scattered on the ground. Children sat beside their injured loved ones, crying ceaselessly. Din Ngan gave a maniacal order. Anyway, I'm bored of playing with them. Eat every last one. His monsters then went berserk and charged at the innocent people, but they were suddenly cut down by slicing wounds. The one who appeared was Van Triet, the destroyer of evil. His cold eyes flashed with contempt. Looking at the sword in his hand, Van Triet was stunned, his heart in turmoil. Lan Kan, how could you be Din Kun? How could you possibly be Din Kun? The man stepped out to shield Din Nun. This intruder really has a death wish, daring to come to a hero's territory to die. But his eyes were still glazed over. How could you be that Din Kun, the one who raised this piece of scum? Memories flooded back. Van Triet remembered the time he taught them. Because power has surpassed the rules of professions, this is no longer the era of knights. But as a descendant of knights, I still want to pass something on. Under my guidance, your strength will surely surpass that of ordinary professionals. If you still wish to continue learning from me, you must remember the following points. First, be humble. There is no difference between yourself and others. Be polite and respect everyone. Once, when receiving items, a child showed a dissatisfied attitude. Van Triet immediately smacked him on the head as a lesson. Afterwards, he took out other rewards as encouragement. Back in the present, Van Triet was relentlessly cutting down the monsters. The mage couldn't believe his eyes and screamed. How is this attack power possible? But in contrast, Van Triet's face remained cold, laced with a hint of anger. He cursed angrily under his breath. This is all my level 30 equipment. And then, Dingan gave another order. You lowlife, show him what a difference in power levels means. But no, Van Triet was fearless and continued to charge forward like a demon. He recalled the memories of what a knight should be. Second, no compassion. Be kind to the weak, especially the helpless. Always fight against violence and injustice with compassion. I saved you all from that slave organization in the first place. You too were once hurt yourselves, so you can understand the helplessness of the weak. You must make the most rational judgments. In the present, he spoke with contempt. I suppose hitting our shadows counts as a win, which made him very happy. If you like, there's still plenty more for you to cut down. Van Triet's eyes filled with even more fury and resentment. Dingan continued to provoke him. But you seem to always have that angry look on your face, don't you? Could it be because of this rabble? Now that's interesting. I wonder what your expression will be when you finish cutting us down, only to discover you were slaughtering them instead. At the same time, the power in Van Triet's sword surged endlessly. He channeled all his emotions and charged forward, desperate to defeat them. The man was horrified as he was struck. Impossible. How could you see through it? Van Triet recalled the rules. 3. Be a hero, fearless and brave. When facing a secret realm, one must not be weak but must fight for justice. Back then, the kids had screamed, "Old man, we almost died. That was way too dangerous." He had calmly replied, "Don't worry. I was actually standing by and watching the whole time." Now, Din Ngan clutched his wound and yelled, "This guy is a bit strong. You useless piece of trash. Don't you know how to use illusion magic? Block him for me. Buy me some time to escape. If anything happens to me, my grandfather will deal with you." The surrounded mage retorted, "Without being able to use illusion magic, it's very difficult for a spellcaster like me." The man began to panic, searching for Van Triet's figure. Where did he go? And in that very instant, Van Triet appeared behind him. He struck swiftly, his eyes sharp and devoid of warmth. The mage fell to the ground, begging, "I'm begging you, please spare me. You want to fight the Din family, so go find Din Hengen." But Van Triet's mind was still set on his code, the spirit of sacrifice. Just then, Bonbon dragged Din Henan back, despite his screams. "What the hell are you? I am the grandson of a hero. If you touch me, I'll make sure your entire family knows no peace." Din Hingan began to ask him in a panic, "What do you want with him?" Van Triet didn't dare to judge on his own. 5. Be honest. The rules flashed through his mind continuously. 6. Be just. The principles of a hero, of an upright person. 7. Honor. And, the final principle, to be a true knight. 8. Soul. At that moment, countless sword blades were launched, and then, everything gradually settled. Din Gan was defeated. Standing on the wall, Van Triet spoke. Lan Kan, not only did you completely ignore my teachings, but you also betrayed Bon Bon. And you even condone your descendants doing such evil things. Why? At the same time, Din Khan appeared behind him, questioning, "What do you mean? Why?" There are many interesting things in my secret realm. The scene descended into chaos, with continuous explosions. Billowing smoke gradually obscured their vision. At this moment, Van Triet was slowly recovering his spiritual energy. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his voice filled with resentment. Lan Kan. Why? Opposite him, Din Koi stepped forward, choosing silence. Van Triet suddenly pulled a pile of objects from his body. Seeing them, Din Koi wondered, mirrors? And then, he dashed forward like the wind, appearing beside the man. All his pent-up emotions were unleashed in a single punch. Van Triet roared, "Why did you betray us?" Din Khan's mask cracked. He looked amused. "To think you could break my armor. Your speed and attack power are quite impressive, aren't they?" Van Triet's gaze grew heavy, filled with hatred. His whole body trembled in disbelief. Lan Kan, why did you betray me? Din Koi gently rested his weapon on the ground and repeated, "Betrayal? You just called me Van Triet, and you even know my old name. Could it be that the old man sent you?" He attacked wildly, filled with disgust. Din Khan's sword strikes were incredibly powerful and decisive. He sneered, "Trying to pretend you're my master? You've got some nerve." Van Triet threw a punch, roaring, "I asked you why you betrayed us," Din Koi said nonchalantly. "You're nothing but a tool. What's the point of talking so much?" The entire space was engulfed in colossal energies. The ground where they fought was in chaos, with boulders flying into the air. He summoned the absolute sword shield field. Van Triet was bewildered. Where is he? Suddenly, in that instant, Bon Bon blocked a blow and screamed, "Lan Kan." For a moment, Din Koi's expression was one of surprise. He fell silent. The two of them clashed directly, the tension palpable. Din Koi punched it in the face. "Bon Bon, how are you still alive? Tell me, how did you do it?" Bon Bon gritted its teeth and defended with its golden light barrier. With burning eyes, he closed in on it. In that moment, Din Koi let out a sound full of disgust. He sneered, "An undead spirit? Even though you can be revived any number of times, it seems you don't have much of a mind." "What a pity," Din Tan asked. "Aren't you three going out yet?" Din Keen scoffed. "Let us handle this kind of petty thief." Van Triet radiated a chilling killing intent, utterly contemptuous. Nuisances. He summoned his undead spirits and commanded, "Go, and stop them." Din Koi's face turned to horror as he whispered, "Third brother." He looked at the undead spirit before him, which seemed incredibly familiar. Din Koi was in agony. "This state, he's really dead. My own blood. I'm starting to get interested in you." Even though he died, he was resurrected as one of them. When Din Koi attacked, Van Triet nimbly dodged. The man charged forward in a rage. "I'm so confused. Master, hurry and prove to me that you're my master. You have to be my beloved master. Whatever you want to ask, I'll answer it all." "I'm not hiding anything from you either," he replied. "But, at the beginning, when you were trapped in a cage, you were still able to help others." The power in Van Triet's sword surged as he screamed. "Just why did it turn out like this?" Din Koi retorted. "Isn't this all because of you, my dear master?" Van Triet roared. "Because of who was I able to escape the life of a slave? Because of who did I become a powerful profession holder? What did you teach me?" Hearing this, he burst out laughing and shot back. "Why? It's because you were too late to save me. Why did you make me endure so much suffering before you came to my rescue? Why is it that, as your disciple, the son of a knight could live such a comfortable life? Everyone was so polite to me. Why did that Bon Bon bastard, who never went through a single thing, get to enjoy that kind of treatment? Why was he stronger than me at everything? Why did you favor Bon Bon? Was it because he was born cleaner than me? Why did you make me change my class to a berserker? Because I was a coward, I had to become a berserker? Shouldn't I have become a warrior for higher defense?" Hearing the accusations, Van Triet replied, "When did I ever show favoritism? Weren't you the one who always performed well, who wanted to become braver and stronger?" "What?" Din Koi cut him off. "Isn't that just because you like that guy more? I was clearly working hard and trying to be brave, too. Did you ever favor me? The truth is, deep down, you just wished I'd never been born, didn't you? Compassion, humility, ridiculous knightly virtues. Do you think any of that will help me live a better life? Isn't the treatment you receive all based on power and status? I'm not like that idiot Bon Bon, tricked by you into being a complete fool, wasting time and leveling opportunities to go save people," he continued. "And you dare talk about betrayal? If you could choose Bon Bon, then of course I can choose someone else." Your good brother Laui can give me far greater status and power. Look at Bonbon's descendants now. And what about my descendants? They can only be servants under my Din family. Look at the pathetic state you're in now, and then go look at Lau. Now tell me, who do you think made the right choice? Suddenly, an immense power erupted from Von Triet's body. He roared, "You ungrateful, treacherous beast." Van Triet launched shards of glass at Din Kuei. Illusory images flickered constantly around his body. Von Triet blinked in and out of sight, giving Din Kuei no time to defend himself. And then, a straight punch slammed right into his gut. Din Kuei let out a low groan of pain as his armor shattered. Von Triet declared, "You truly can't compare to Bone. You can't even touch a single one of his toes." Across from him, the man laughed triumphantly, his steps cracking the very ground beneath him. And with his armor completely gone, Din Hui met the no armor requirement, activating his berserker body and letting out a wild, booming laugh. "You finally admitted it," the system displayed. Attack increased by 300%, speed increased by 200%. The lower the health, the more attack and speed increase exponentially. With everything in place, he charged forward. "So, you admit you favored Bone, don't you? So you were a hypocrite all along." The system displayed a berserker exclusive, Rage, increasing strength and movement speed. Attack, speed, and resistance to abnormal statuses also increased, but at the cost of reduced intelligence and defense. Von Triet was stunned to realize he was in a life-or-death situation. Against this speed, his only option was to escape into the mirror world, because a single one of his slashes could tear the sky in two. Din Kuei realized, "Master, you use those mirrors to teleport and run away, don't you? You can't escape without your mirrors, can you?" Then, the Berserker's exclusive skill, Raging Blood Rain, was activated. He immediately unleashed the Raging Blood Rain from above. "This red rain will force you out. Come out and face me. Knights are supposed to be brave, aren't they? Go on, practice those knightly virtues you preached." At this point, Din Kuei was like a madman. His power surged, HP at 11, Berserker body activated, attack and speed increased. Now, the only thing left in Din Kuei's eyes was a murderous glint. "So, what I suspected was right all along. You only preach morality when you're safe. What the hell would a pampered brat who's never known hardship possibly understand? You've never felt my pain, yet you dare lecture me about compassion." He lunged forward, throwing a punch, but Von Triet managed to dodge it. Din Kuei furiously insulted him. "It's nothing but emotional self-gratification. You actually thought your friends and disciples would always support you. How laughably naive." He then unleashed his skill, Blood Chi Explosion. Von Triet was struck by Din Kuei's attack, coughing up blood as he lost half his health bar. He was sent flying backward, creating a massive explosion. On his system interface, the words "near death" now appeared. Seeing this, his enemy sneered. "Look at your pathetic state. You're so weak without your mirrors," forcing him to scramble for a healing potion. At that moment, Din Kuei slowly walked toward Von Triet, saying, "And you're just barely clinging to life from my assault. It's just from the blood rain." The moment he arrived, Von Triet immediately charged with his sword, but was easily blocked by Din Kuei. "You weren't this weak before. That's the price of naivety. You should be thanking us for it." Left with no other choice, Von Triet pulled out a dagger and stabbed straight at him. But the man simply blocked it with one hand and taunted, "Only through betrayal can one truly mature. Falling from the pinnacle to rock bottom. It must be painful, huh?" Seeing Din Kuei had him cornered, Von Triet summoned another sword, only to be immediately shoved away. He sneered, "Did you know? Lau has become the supreme king, revered by all, while you're nothing but a traitor, despised by everyone." As he spoke, Din Kuei shattered Von Triet's sword, sending him flying before letting out a scornful laugh. "You must be so jealous, right?" He roared with laughter, relishing the sight of Von Triet's lifeblood draining away. Din Kuei advanced, his voice a low threat. "Your blood is nearly gone. Your only chance of survival rests in my hands. Just confess your sins, get on your knees, and beg for forgiveness. And maybe, I'll keep you as my pet. Of course, the condition is, you tell me the secret of your resurrection." However, Von Triet still struggled back to his feet to face him. "I was wrong. I was wrong to save you from that slave cage. Wrong to trust wolves in sheep's clothing, like all of you. Level up. 1. Din Kuei stared in shock at his recovery as Von Triet continued to speak. "I was wrong to think that if I just led from the front, people would follow. Wrong to think that good people's hearts wouldn't change." At that moment, the system window appeared. Aura of Haste. Consumes 50 mapixel. Duration, 60 seconds. Increases speed for all allies by 30%, within a 30-meter radius of myself. he continued. I was also wrong to stubbornly cling to the virtues of a knight. He then activated Devil's Possession, boosting his combat power. He let out a cold laugh. I don't need morals to deal with scum like you. His eyes blazed with fury as he stared ahead. He charged, relentlessly repeating, I just have to wipe them all out. He then frenziedly lunged at Din Koi with his blade, hammering him again and again, trying to beat the arrogance out of him. But unexpectedly, he quickly regained the upper hand, and even started coaching Van Triet. No, this is how you do it. Din Koi flashed a sinister grin and said, But master, I thought you just learned how to specialize in dual swords. Turns out, you're just wildly swinging two blades around. Using a style you're not used to in a real fight is suicide. You've forgotten everything you once taught. Lost in his rage, Van Triet suddenly blinked, leaving Din Koi stunned. Huh? He reappeared behind him, landing a solid blow to his back. This forced Din Koi to wildly swing his sword back and forth. How is that possible? Weren't all the mirrors shattered? Then, he had a sudden realization. Is it the blood? His feet were standing in a pool of blood on the ground. It turns out he doesn't need an intact mirror. Any reflective surface works. Too bad for you. I've figured out your trick. But after this move, you'll have no way to struggle. Din Koi quickly absorbed all the bloodstains, smiling sinisterly. Now you have no reflective surfaces left to use. But he was suddenly stabbed from behind, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Stunned, Din Koi whirled around and shouted, Bon Bon, since when did you lot stoop to sneak attacks? At that moment, Van Triet summoned his undead spirit and declared, Against you, there's no need to speak of knightly honor. After deploying an undead formation on all four sides, Van Triet watched from afar as the man struggled. His face darkened as he cursed. You bastard. I just want you dead. Din Koi was enraged. You were my defeated subordinate 60 years ago, he exploded, roaring furiously at Van Triet. You can't even begin to match my current power, he laughed manically. The more injured I am, the stronger I get. Suddenly, Van Triet landed a blow on his back, making him stagger and lose his balance. A sharp glint flashed in Van Triet's eyes. I've seen right through your weakness. Din Koi flew into a rage. Van Triet continued. As a berserker, you have two major flaws. He sliced his blade across Din Koi's back. First, your defense is low. Furious, Din Koi spun around and swung his blade horizontally, but Van Triet dodged it. He taunted. To become a berserker, you need high attack and high speed. Van Triet powerfully thrust his blade into Din Koi's back. So, when distributing stat points, you can't afford to increase your defense attribute by much. Din Koi, covered from head to toe in blood, glared coldly at everyone as Van Triet's voice continued to ring out. Furthermore, many of your skills have side effects that lower your own defenses. Even my skeletal spirits can injure you. Din Koi let out a heaven-shaking roar. But they're just low-level undead. I just have to annihilate them all, and it'll be over. Watching Din Koi cough up blood, Van Triet's voice turned icy. Your second weakness is your limited number of area of effect attacks. Din Koi raised his blade and swung it wide, leaving a deep crimson, blood-like arc in its wake. Van Triet continued. Aside from the whirlwind slash from before your class change, that's your only method of wide area attack. He glanced back at the spirits standing behind him. My mana regeneration is fast enough to maintain a steady number of undead. You can't possibly wipe them all out, Din Koi. He angrily threw a punch forward. Who said I don't have an area of effect attack? Yunche pointed his hand upward, and the monsters immediately shot up as if on cue. Besides, your greatest weakness is that you have no one to rely on. The sword's edge was cold, stained with blood. Yunche said, You and Ben used to work together, so perfectly that you covered each other's weaknesses. But now, the shield that protected you has become the blade that strikes you back. Someone like you, who seized power through betrayal. You don't have anyone close to you, do you? Facing Ding Kun's furious gaze, he continued, Is this what you wanted? Suddenly, Ding Kun raised his saber and slashed horizontally at Yunche's legs, but he dodged it. Still talking about friendship and mutual support now? What a joke, he roared in desperation. You were supposed to be dead, and I've enjoyed 60 years of power, he emphasized. 60 years. He charged upward, soaring towards Yunche. I was the one who was right. I don't need pathetic things like comrades, he shouted. My descendants, come out and face the enemy. Ding Jian, Ding Qiang, where have you two run off to? Ding Jian and Ding Qiang flew out, yelling, Father, Ding Kun boasted arrogantly. I don't need comrades. My own flesh and blood will fight for me. Yunche dashed in from behind. Is that so? This startled Ding Kun, throwing him into a slight panic. Then, he swung his blade down. Ding Kun couldn't dodge in time, and one of his arms was severed. he roared in agony. Ding Jian and Ding Qiang were terrified. Father! Ding Jian panicked. This man. Father. He's losing? Ding Kun screamed in pain. Quick, stop him, heal me, now. All three, Ding Kun, Ding Jian, and Ding Qiang, hesitated. Even their father couldn't defeat him. How could we? Ding Kun was stunned, staring at his descendants in disbelief. Perhaps he never expected them to be so cowardly. He exploded, his furious roar shaking the heavens. Suddenly, he grabbed Ding Jin by the neck, terrifying him. Father, what are you doing? He raged. Everything you brats have, I gave to you. What was the point of having you all? You are my health, my lifespan, and you dare refuse me? He glared at Ding Jian and Ding Qiang. You two, go stop him now. If not, you can die with him. His icy gaze swept over Ding Jian and Ding Qiang when suddenly, a swarm of monsters with glowing eyes flew over, staring them down and startling them. A continuous stream of blue light attacked Ding Kun, making him panic. He roared in pain, his eyes vacant and filled with fear. A blast of red energy erupted, engulfing everything. Large boulders trembled. Ding Kun stood, panting amidst the rubble. Yun Che taunted. Where are your men? Lost all your stamina? You know, he said, despite your appearance, deep down in your soul, you're still an old man. Come on, go enjoy some quality father-son time. Ding Kun was stunned. My son. You turned him into an undead? Yun Che laughed loudly, pure satisfaction written all over his face. Haha, he pursued the fleeing Ding Kun. Still trying to run, he landed a blow on Ding Kun. Comrades. Then, he struck a second time. Master. He delivered a third blow that made Ding Kun cough up blood, his strength depleted. Children. He grabbed Ding Kun by the head. You could have had all of this. Then he slammed him to the ground, leaving him with a vacant stare. Yun Che looked down at Ding Kun, but now, all they feel for you is hatred. Ding Kun lay sprawled on the ground, his body completely drained of strength, utterly defeated. Yun Che's voice continued to ring out. Face the dead end that you chose for yourself. More than 60 years ago, a nostalgic scene showed the three of them reunited. Looking at the two, Yun Che said, You two have both successfully changed your classes and reached S rank. As your master, I should show some sincerity, right? He brought his two hands together, creating some kind of energy stream with a smile. I poured all the precious materials I've gathered over the years to a master blacksmith, and with a bit of luck, we managed to forge mythical-grade weapons. Quickly, Lan Qian received his blade. Yun Che said, This is the highest-grade weapon you can get at your current level. Lan Qian, this greatsword is the same type as the one you usually use, so you should be able to handle it easily. The young man then swung the sword around. Thank you, master. Then, Yun Che handed an axe with a shield-like sheath to Ben. Ben, this axe and shield are a perfect match for your new class. Given your fighting style, you'll definitely get used to it quickly. But the young man eyed it suspiciously. This must have cost a fortune. Suddenly, seeing Lan Qian standing, frozen, Ben asked with concern. Huh? Lan Qian, why are you spacing out? Lan Qian then pointed at Yun Che's sword sheath. Master, it seems like you've never changed your weapon. Won't it become outdated? Yun Che just chuckled, then held up his own sword and looked at it with a soft smile. This one of mine will never need changing. The divine sword appeared, with a surging torrent of power. It was the flowing cloud sword. Then, the scene changed to Yun Che, standing before a place filled with lava. I once gave everything, and I spent so much time gathering materials in top-tier dungeons, and finally managed to sneak into an SSS-rank dungeon. I had just obtained the strongest weapon, forged in an ancient forge. Back then, he stood against the molten lava to pull that sword out. Besides, at that time, it was just an unformed blade. Later, the item rarity tiers were established. Normal, rare, epic, legendary, and mythical. It was the only unique grade weapon in existence at the time. The sword he held emitted wisps of white smoke and an unpredictable killing intent. It has a special activation method. Like a flowing cloud, it's ever-changing, able to transform into any weapon its wielder desires. Therefore, the process of understanding its user is the condition for it to take its true form. The image shows the sword having transformed into a great axe for him to fight a tiger. I've bathed it in the blood of countless battles. It learned to transform according to my will long ago. After a moment of thought, Van Triet drew the sword, looked at it, and said, It has adapted itself to my changing strength. Hearing about its miraculous abilities, Lan Qian was surprised. Is it really that amazing? Then, Van Triet made an offer. Do you want to try it? He was intrigued. Can I? A gauntlet-clad hand gripped the sword. A warrior raises the sword, about to strike someone. Behind him, his comrades cheer, "Long live the king. Have you cleaned things up over there?" The king said, "We need to make it look like Van Triet is starting a rebellion. Don't worry, no one saw a thing." Meanwhile, the warrior holding the sword has a villainous smirk. "It's finally mine. A unique grade weapon." He then lifts the sword with one hand and commands it to transform. The sword slowly emits two distinct auras, one of yin and one of yang. Back in the present, Van Triet approaches, radiating a powerful killing intent alongside his subordinates. He quickens his pace as he walks toward them and says, "When facing the front lines of a dungeon, no matter how difficult the path ahead was, I never once retreated." Van Triet, holding that sword in his hand, becomes even more terrifying. "There's no dungeon I can't conquer." The glowing sword slowly transforms as he continues. "But for the chance to live a peaceful and quiet life with all of you." He raises the sword high. "Your greed has turned you into this." The sword stats appear. Flowing cloud sword, severely damaged, class required, self-adapting, attack power plus 2500, spirit plus 10, includes skills and the ability to shapeshift. With that, he points the sword at Lan Kan, who is lying on the ground. Seeing this, he immediately admits his fault. "Master, I was wrong." Van Triet retorts, "I never needed that empty title of hero in the first place." Lan Kan, covered in blood, feels his body slowly fading away. He begs in terror, "Save me. Don't kill me." The flowing cloud sword has transformed into a scythe, pointed directly at his neck. In your hands, the flowing cloud sword is nothing more than a giant club. "You betrayed me for times these things asterisk." The stats of the flowing cloud sword appear. Severely damaged, attack plus 5200, speed and defense decreased by 50%. It has skills and the ability to shapeshift. Bonbon, standing nearby, also radiates a powerful killing intent. Van Triet continues, "You betrayed Bonbon." Lan Kan grows even more terrified, his eyes pleading, "Master, don't you want to know?" Without hesitation, he swings, sending the traitor's head flying. "Now, face the dead end you chose." As his head flies through the air, Lan Kan struggles to speak. "Don't you want to know the truth behind all of this?" As he finishes, blood spews from his mouth. Hearing this, Van Triet rests the blade on his shoulder, his glowing eyes turning fearsome as he replies, "Everything you know, I already know." The scene shifts to a room where Van Triet sits on a throne, with Lan Kan kneeling below. At that time, Bonbon bowed his head and confessed everything. "I was the bait." Hearing this, Van Triet's eyes grew cold as he calculated, "The path of revenge has only just begun. For this, I will become even stronger." At that moment, he presented a card. Images of miners appear one by one. Because the dungeons are controlled, the highest level an ordinary person can reach in their lifetime is only around level 30. A series of mysterious, powerful figures appear. Even for the exceptionally talented, once they join an official organization and advance steadily, they can only reach level 60, because level 60 is a massive threshold. A girl holds a glowing sword amidst the brilliant light of a class change. Another girl emits a powerful, dark aura. Behind her is her pet beast. Under certain conditions, a class can evolve one step further. Furthermore, unlocking higher-tier equipment requires specific levels, attributes, and exclusive skills, but only those who complete a class change can break through the level 60 barrier. Van Triet stares intently at the card in his hand. Then, another scene appears. The card glows, an item coveted by countless people. Moreover, to undergo a class change, one needs this, a class change certificate, and these certificates are incredibly rare. A mysterious, shadowy figure appears, holding countless such cards. Even in the past, when the dungeons were open to everyone, there was only one. It is a place where only 1 in 10,000 people can change their class. Countless people would have to bow and kneel before them. In today's world, this matter is even more tightly controlled by the government. He held the glowing card in his hand and looked straight at Lan Kan. In the entire hero clan, only Lan Kan possessed one. Among the descendants, there wasn't a single person with a class change. Then there was Lan Kan, and him before their class changes appeared. After all, the difference before and after a class change is like night and day. Lan Kan went from a warrior to a berserker and learned exclusive skills like the berserker's body. At that time, he stared intently at Lan Kan, whose strength had increased several-fold. If it weren't for the mirror world, I definitely wouldn't have been able to defeat Lan Kan. Then, Van Triet pressed the lyre-shaped icon on the system. But what if I undergo a class change based on having the mirror world? The system panel displayed a line of text along with the development of the class change certification. Van Triet stared coldly ahead. Just how strong could I become? The icon he just pressed emitted a stream of light, and the system notifications chimed repeatedly. Scan detected. Spirit power 65, speed 55, strength 34. Meeting the conditions for a class change. You can change into a battle dancer, a bard, or a forest musician. It added, please select your class change and initiate the class change quest. Van Triet's slender hand reached out, intending to grasp the sword. As he held the weapon, his body radiated sparks of fire. The class change had long been decided. Very few people with the Chanter class can successfully change their class, and it's also the only Chanter class with an attack skill. After a moment of thought, he chose to press the Battle Dancer option on the screen. Once done, the system asked again, Mirror World, do you want to reverse the Battle Dancer class change? At this, he paused for a moment. Classes can be reversed. 2. A great ancient tree with many shining branches appeared, with the main classes at the very top. Then, in order, were Archer, Shield-Bearer, Priest, Warrior, Mage, Warlock, Chanter, and Wanderer. At the bottom on two sides were Rogue and Assassin. The two sides generated different dark auras, like two opposing factions. The classes were distinct, each with their own specialized direction. A mysterious person appeared with a Trickster Thief class, but there were always exceptions. There are many hidden class changes, and the higher the class change quest requirements, the stronger you become after changing. An icon of a drum appeared. For example, for the Battle Dancer, to change to it, you need to increase your speed to 55 or higher, and your spirit to 65 or higher. A glowing blood core appeared, and a normal chanter would never be able to allocate points, so, extremely. The class change requirement, a slaughter blood core. In addition, the class change quest also requires an extremely rare item, the slaughter blood core. A girl with a lyre on her back was holding the blood core up high. These are crystals formed from blood, requiring a massive amount of killing to be energized. For a chanter with no offensive capabilities, wanting to use it is very difficult. Van Triet sat still, staring at the system panel. Therefore, only a very small number of people have successfully changed to this class. Currently, the Battle Dancer class has undergone a reverse enhancement by Mirror World, and the class change quest requirements will also be reversed and doubled. The system panel showed the requirements. Peace. Dancer. Peace needs strength for its protection. Use dance and spiritual totems to intimidate the enemy, both healing and destroying. A request for a class change, and to multiply the Garden of Life by 5. After reading it, Van Triet's expression darkened. This demand was a bit too outrageous, but he wearily rested his chin in his hand, wondering what exactly the criteria for the mirror reversal were. After arbitrarily adding an antonym to some prefixes, does it create a new class and new requirements? After the reversal, shouldn't there at least be a requirement similar to the Slaughter Blood Core? That is a supreme treasure, capable of endlessly producing all sorts of potions that provide complete healing. A sparkling liquid appeared. Every single nursery of life is madly pursued by top-tier class holders. With it, a party might not even need a healing class, and I need to have 5 of them. Then Van Triet stood up. But with such a high requirement, after this class change, I will definitely become absurdly strong. Then he appeared in the mirror world. I initially thought that upgrading the mirror skill would be a gradual process to unlock this mirror world. Standing before Van Triet was a replica of the Orc Chieftain, the Dungeon Lord, he continued to think. But it doesn't seem to be that simple. After level 3, the mirror world not only contains ordinary monsters, but can also replicate Dungeon Lords. Suddenly, a series of swords appeared and simultaneously stabbed into the monster. After that, his level increased to level 2, Van Triet observed. His surroundings, the souls also seemed more numerous than before. Plus, even the class change can be reversed. The potential of each level can be explored even further. Van Triet appeared before another monster. The system announced, "You have left the mirror world," he thought. But for now, the priority is to level up as quickly as possible. The power of a job advancement. He stood still with his monster, saying, "It's time to get out." A single sword strike was unleashed, aiming to cleave the monster in 2. Simultaneously, the system announced the monster's defeat. Yun Che, human, level 50, spellcaster, HP 1960, MP 200, strength 13+, agility 57+, EXP 3,542 out of 10,200. Free points. 6. Legendary equipment obtained. Secret realm completed. The secret realm vanished, along with its mysterious, deep purple space. Everyone inside was stunned as the purple sky gradually faded, replaced by a bright, clear one. A murmur spread. Why did the hero's secret realm suddenly disappear? What happened? What is the hero doing? Who could possibly know? The hero never let us in. Then, structures began to crumble and fall, and a few people were pierced by sharp debris. Someone shouted, "The hero's family isn't in danger, are they? Everyone, on my command, follow me in." As they drew closer, they recoiled in horror. This is Dingjian. Dingjian's been killed? That day in the city, countless newspapers littered the streets with the headline, "The Death of the Hero." At that moment, a man was equally shocked to hear the news on the radio. The hero's family has been brutally massacred. As of now, no suspects have been identified. If there are any leads. A wealthier family, watching on a live screen, was just as stunned. The hero was actually killed, but he was an incredibly powerful hero. A photo showing Yunche's back was released. A police officer stood before the public and announced, "This is the only photograph we have at the moment. High Command has ordered us to use all available resources to apprehend the criminal. All available resources." The photo showed his cold, imposing figure from behind. In La Wei, the Supreme King, a man of immense power, sat on his throne and said, "That punk Lan Qian is dead." He stared intently at the screen and asked, "We clearly had troops deployed outside, yet this was only discovered much later. What have you found out?" At the former hero's secret realm, a cool-looking young man sat atop a pile of S-rank swordmaster and S-rank strongman corpses. He replied, "Your Majesty, not a single one of the soldiers guarding Dingkun knows what happened." A hand passed something to this man, but he continued speaking with intense focus. "I had my subordinates check the entry and exit logs. Additionally, I obtained information from the Public Security Bureau." He flipped through the logbook, page by page. The current suspects have been identified as Yunsa and Yunche. Hearing this, the king crossed his legs and remained silent for a moment. On the other end, the man finished reading, closed the logbook, and chuckled with amusement. "Yunche. Your Majesty, that's a name that brings back memories. Allow me to handle this." Early in the morning at the academy, students bustled to class as voices rang out. "I heard about what happened at the hero's secret realm." A group of students walked together, gossiping. "How could you not know? It's been all over the news for the past 2 days. I wonder what lunatic had the guts to go after a hero." Yun Sa and Yun Yin walked past them coldly, while the group continued their avid discussion. A hero was actually killed? Some national guardian he was. What the hell is the army even doing? Hearing them, Yun Sa turned her head, filled with doubt. That person actually killed Ding Kun. Her gaze was distant, emotionless. "I was his accomplice. I helped him enter the hero's secret realm. Should I report it?" Then, her expression darkened. "But, to witness something like this, it's truly a once-in-a-lifetime event." As she was lost in thought, she suddenly saw Yun Che approaching coldly from a distance. Recognizing the familiar figure, Yun Sa's face went blank. He, in turn, just stared at her with a cold, silent gaze. She recalled being in that room, where Lan Qian knelt and said, "The Nursery of Life. I've never heard of it." Yun Che had thought silently to himself, "This so-called Nursery of Life for job advancements is far too precious. It could only be possessed by someone at the very top." Yun Sa's figure appeared in the light. "Right now, the only person I can think of at the very top is that extremely noble girl, Yun Sa." Looking at him, Yun Che had asked at the time, "Do you know Yun Sa's true identity? You seemed very eager to meet her before." At the question, the man fell silent for a moment. Yun Sa, the image of a noble young woman, appeared. She is La Sa, the granddaughter of the king of La Wei. Right now, she stood opposite Yun Che, radiating a murderous aura. "I really didn't expect this." His expression darkened like a predator that had cornered its prey. "So you're the granddaughter of the king of La Wei." Seeing Yun Che standing before her, she froze. He remained still, his lips slightly parted. At the same time, a crowd of students ran up from behind, shouting cheerfully, Yun Che's back at school." Everyone crowded around, eager to talk to him. "You must have been exhausted after fighting the Silver Moon Wolf Lord, so you took a few days off to rest, right? Thanks to you, we were all able to escape from the Silver Moon Wolf Lord and keep our lives. You're just too strong." They all vied to get closer and praise him. "We were starting to lose hope back then. We're so glad you're finally back at school. We absolutely have to thank you properly. Besides, the school wants to give you a reward too." A student with thick lips said, "But now that you're back at school, the Ding family will probably come looking for you. The shadow of the Ding family loomed. The student's words carried a certain authority. For some reason, the Ding family's third master seemed to still be missing in the hero's secret realm. The Ding family had searched everywhere for him before this. After recounting all this, the student got straight to the point. Since you're so strong, you might be subjected to some intense questioning. Numerous newspapers had scattered reports about the news, but you probably don't need to worry. After all, the culprit is clearly that secret realm wrecker who was in the news before. What's more, even the hero sacrificed himself. Even though you're very strong, they don't think you could have killed a hero. But Van Triet was the one who wrecked the secret realm. After hearing those words, his face showed no expression, as he thought. Asterisk. The Ding family had only recognized my voice when I broke into their home and stole the pass, but there wasn't enough evidence, so only the Ding family could suspect me. Asterisk. The other student then laughed loudly, and I also heard that secret realm wrecker was chased away by the police. I reckon it won't be long until he's soon brought to justice. Then, the student turned to comfort him, making Van Triet smile. Van Triet, don't worry, by then, you'll definitely be cleared. But behind that smile, Van Triet's eyes held a deeply disturbing look. Asterisk, I don't want to be caught by the security forces. Asterisk, in his mind, he recalled the scene of those soldiers, the so-called security forces, who were so exaggerated. The patrol teams everywhere on the streets all possessed extraordinary strength. The scene of those soldiers scrambling to chase down the death spirits came to mind. Asterisk, if I hadn't relied on those death spirits to disrupt the situation, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to return here. Asterisk. Then he turned to look at his smiling friends in front of him. Asterisk. Since this place is full of students, if I just pretend to be Van Triet, I won't easily be exposed. Asterisk. Thinking this, he lost himself in thought as he looked up at the clear blue sky. Asterisk. Most importantly, at school, I can learn about this era without being suspected. Asterisk. At this moment, a student spoke loudly. When it comes down to it, it's all that secret realm wrecker's fault, they said to each other, annoyed. If it wasn't for him, Van Triet and we wouldn't be suspected. The Ding family is also a victim. Nearby, 2 other students chimed in. That's right, the hero died, but he was a hero. Then those students growled curses. That guy is truly guilty of a heinous crime, no matter how evil. You can't lay a hand on a hero. Van Triet stood there, said nothing, and glanced slightly, then turned and walked away. Asterisk. Everything they've known since childhood about the hero, Ding Con, has been propagandized and portrayed by Luo Wei. Asterisk. Asterisk. Even if I killed him, it would be very difficult to change their perception. Asterisk. Among the students, someone else started a new topic. But have you guys heard? The hero isn't actually like what's described in the textbooks. Another round of discussion ensued. I heard my uncle say that what's inside this hero's secret realm is way too fake, but he's a hero. Actually, I also heard the hero is dead. How could they? Someone then said, don't disbelieve it, there's a video. Hearing this, Van Triet froze, his eyes widening. That horrifying scene appeared on the phone screen. Someone had secretly filmed the scene when the hero's secret realm vanished. The people inside were all battered and broken like this. A few people who were severely injured but still alive were rescued, and it seemed they had all been enslaved and tormented by the Ding family for a long time. Seeing this scene, every student's face turned ashen. This is too tragic. Van Triet still stood, deep in thought, in one spot, wondering. Asterisk. Will things finally change? Asterisk. After watching, the students started discussing again. Is that real or fake? Where did you get that? Aren't there guards there? How could it have gotten out? Standing before the group of students who kept chattering continuously, Van Triet stood there, feeling overwhelmed as he listened to everything. It's definitely fake. Slander. Someone else is maliciously trying to slander the hero. I don't believe it. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Suddenly, at this moment, Van Sa stepped forward to clarify everything. All this, of course, is all real. Not long ago, I was invited to the hero's secret realm. What was shown in the video is only a small part of it. As she spoke, she toyed with her hair, her eyes glancing away. These things aren't really a secret among the upper echelons. The students were utterly shocked again, hearing even Van Sa say such things. The students looked at each other in confusion. Could it really be true? This actually happened? Van Triet still looked at them thoughtfully. When suddenly, Van Sa grabbed his hand and ran swiftly away. Follow me. Seeing this, the students' jaws dropped again. They went to a corner of the school, a deserted place, where Vansaw finally questioned him. Why did you come back? Aren't you afraid the security forces will investigate you? Moreover, do you think only the security forces will cause you trouble? Then Vansaw's expression darkened. Also, aren't you afraid? I'll expose you? Hearing this, his expression didn't change as he recalled the moment he had said before, I believe your nature isn't bad. Hearing these words, Vansaw's face twisted. Then, she turned her face away, feeling awkward. Asterisk, based on the cruel actions of that hero family, death would be preferable. Asterisk. Her face turned pale as she gritted her teeth. Investigate what? Creek. This is that favor you owe me, Yunche replied coldly. Don't worry, I've already taken what you said into account. Yunche's deep gaze glanced towards a distant, hidden corner. The figure of Yunsa appeared from behind Laoi's shadow. She's clearly Laoi's granddaughter, so why would she help me get into the hero's secret realm? His expression then turned dangerous, his profound eyes flashing with displeasure at the Ding clan's actions. What's her relationship with Laoi? To kill Laoi. Would deceiving and manipulating Yunsa be a good way to do it? The two stood there in silence for a moment, and he told himself to first focus on the objective at hand. He then spoke up, asking her if she knew about the seedling of life. Taking a slow step forward, Yunsa received the question and answered casually, Of course, I do. Isn't it the thing that produces the life essence? At this point, following Yunsa's directions, Yunche arrived in front of the principal's office. The old principal's office was there. He slowly stepped inside. A system notification appeared. You have entered the mirror world. Inside, the old principal was sitting at his desk, looking over some documents. Yunsa's instructions echoed in his mind. That old man is hiding a world sapling. It's a treasure class item. Yunche slowly walked to a corner of the room. All the seedlings of life I know of have been taken by him one way or another. When he reached a certain spot, he saw rows of seedlings of life, all placed next to each other, used to nourish that treasure sapling of his. This place was labeled Simulated World Sapling, SSS-rank Mysterious Secret Realm. Faced with this sight, Yunche was stunned. He never imagined there would be so many seedlings of life. The scene changes. A glowing mana barrier pushes Yunche back. He looked at the seedlings inside the protective circle and said, Everything's been sealed by the principal's magic formation. Replica World Sapling. Replica Seedling of Life. I originally planned to use the Mirror World to directly take the replica of the Seedling of Life, but I didn't expect the magic formation to be active even within the Mirror World. Yunche moved to another spot, thinking, even though it's a sealing formation, I was familiar with them in my past life. He picked up his sword, examining it. However, this formation is clearly quite different from the ones in my past life, and there are many other new things in this era. He wondered, this thing called machinery. With my current strength, I have no way of breaking this formation. Even if my attack power were enough to destroy the formation, it would also damage the items inside. Yunche turned and waved his hand. Looks like I have to leave for now. The mechanical system voice sounded. Acquired replica. Berserker's magic tool. Acquired replica. Formation rune. Acquired replica. Thunderclap formation skill book. Acquired an ordinary book. Replica formations and machinery. He walked out the door, thinking of the level 89 Principal Bolin. Yunche crossed his arms, his gaze sharp. This man's strength is far beyond imagination. If I haven't gone through my class change, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do to him. He pictured the scene of Ding An using magic. It seems there are only two ways to get the seedling of life inside. The first way is to wait for him to activate the formation himself, and then obtain it through the mirror world. Yunche stood before the stairs, thinking, the second way is to learn about this era and refamiliarize myself with the parts of magic that are now unfamiliar. Then, find a way to break it. He walked into the school library and randomly pulled a book off the shelf. Yunche flipped through the pages, reading. Then I'll start with books on general knowledge. Building a solid foundation is more important than anything else. His eyes turned cold. All right then. First, I'll kill Ding Kun. When I was first reborn, I was too hasty. The world has changed so much now. If I don't understand it properly, I won't even be able to get close to Laoi. He thought back to his first few days. I dismantled and replicated some machinery back then, but I didn't grasp the correct method at all. He sat in a chair with his arms crossed, looking at the book with a serious expression. I heard Laoi was the one who pushed for all this development. But where on earth did he get all these things and ideas from? He opened the book. So this is how you use a mana core. But what's the principle behind it? Yunche thought about the machinery. The parts unrelated to secret realm items are easy to understand. But the interactions with items from secret realms are truly full of questions. He rubbed his chin. Although some questions have been answered, many more have arisen. Yunche glanced through the pages. Furthermore, a lot of the information is expressed unclearly, so I'll need to search in other books. He opened a door with his hand and entered another room, and the most important things might not even be recorded. The more common a book is, the higher the chance it's been censored, perhaps only in some lesser-known books, or even a one-of-a-kind copy. Will I find the content I'm looking for? Yunche walked along the old bookshelves. However, there are a lot of useless books among these types, so it will probably take a very long time just to filter through them. He suddenly noticed something. Oh? Yunche looked up. As he looked closer, he recognized her. Yin. Yunche stared intently at her face. Hasn't she always been with Yunsa? What is she doing here? Is she the bodyguard for Laui's granddaughter? His eyes fell upon the book she was reading. Van Am jumped, her lifeless eyes giving Van Triet an unwelcome stare. Van Triet stepped closer and said, I just want to grab a book from in there. Van Am asked, annoyed. Which one? He replied, I haven't decided on the specific topic yet. Van Am gave him a confused look. Van Triet continued, the thing I want to find is preferably about materials from mystic realms and the principles of mechanical structures. With that, she tossed a book over. This one should work. Having gotten the book he needed, Van Triet walked away, quietly saying, thanks. A moment later, he returned with the book in his hand. I've finished it. Are there any other books here related to mobile communications? Van Am was so exasperated, she was speechless. The next day, she reached out and took the book from him. Van Triet smiled. I discovered this stuff is pretty delicious. Do you want to try one? She shook her head slightly and replied, no, thank you. Ignoring what Van Am said, he placed the pastry on the cabinet for her anyway. I'll just leave it here. Van Triet walked out, thinking to himself, even though she's so cold, for some reason I feel a sense of closeness to her. So strange. The next day, he gave her another cookie. Van Triet turned to her and announced with a cheerful smile, today, I'm hoping to find a book about mana engines. She looked at him and replied, that book isn't on this shelf. Van Triet thought to himself, it seems it isn't easy for her to find a quiet moment to read. In the library, during a break, he put his hands in his pockets and looked at her. I'm not very familiar with this place, so it'll take me a lot of time to find my way, and I'll probably make a lot of noise, right? Van Am's face turned pale. She never expected him to have this kind of personality. He figured that maybe after getting to know each other better, he could get some information about Laui and Lhasa out of her. One evening, Van Triet's voice rang out. What did you mean by helping me with that sentence? She glanced at him and said she didn't know. On another morning, he asked in a low tone, do you know about the continuous magic connection array system? She answered while eating. Literally, it refers to a mechanical system of a continuous array. He replied, can you help me find a book on that topic? An image of the two of them, engrossed in their books under the evening light. She shyly covered her book with her hand, glanced at him, and spoke. Why don't you go ask that times person? Hearing her say that left Van Triet bewildered. Van Am described him, the little one, that descendant of the traitor. Where is he? He smiled and replied, he'll be back very soon. The scene changes to the Din family's house, where two men are sitting. One of them exclaimed, using Ahuk to threaten us. What do they really want? They only sent us this one photo? It's been days and there's been no follow-up. Lam Thuk asked, was this sent by that Van Triet guy? Din Hao leaned forward, covering his face with his hands. The same guy who used to hang around that bastard Kyo Chi from the Kyo family. So, is this because we captured members of the Kyo family? If it's Van Triet, then is he also the one who killed the heroic grandfather? Does he really have the power to kill the grandfather? He suddenly roared. Security chief, why haven't you arrested him yet? Are you just going to ignore our orders? We are the hero clan. Even with the grandfather dead, that changes absolutely nothing. Suddenly, someone rushed in. Master, urgent news. That Kyo Chi from the Kyo family has returned to the academy. Down in the courtyard, a person was holding up a sign under numerous scrutinizing gazes, and whispers began to spread. That's Kyo Chi from the Kyo family. What is he planning? Is he trying to cause trouble now that the hero is dead? Even though there were some nasty rumors about the hero, Kyu An was still a traitor. Kyu Chi suddenly spoke up. Before the hero's mystic realm vanished, some of you must have witnessed that battlefield. Even if you didn't, I recorded a video of it. From above, two figures looked down. Van Triet and Van Am were watching the situation below. He said, for so many years, the truth has been covered up. The wronged hero was trampled by traitors. But there have always been people persistently searching for the truth. Kyu Chi continued to shout, I now have enough evidence to prove that my great-grandfather, Kyu An, was not a traitor. He was a hero. He looked down and thought, perhaps this world will completely change because of his perseverance. Qiu declared passionately, everything I have said is the truth, and I am not afraid of it being verified. If anyone has any doubts, you can ask me. Under everyone's stunned gazes, he said, my great-grandfather was absolutely not a traitor. Whispers began to spread below, full of skepticism. This can't be a lie, can it? How is that possible? How could it be? It's written in all the textbooks. I don't believe it. Amidst the murmurs, Qiu spoke again. I don't expect everyone to believe me immediately. However, my second uncle, my youngest uncle, all of my family members are completely innocent. Without another word, he suddenly bowed deeply. I only hope that the Din family will release my family. The murmurs grew louder. The Din family. I thought the Qiu family have always been their servants. Another voice piped up. I heard that back in the day, the Din family was merciful, and that's why they spared the lives of the traitor Qiuan's family. His friend replied, if those nasty rumors about the hero clan are true, then I can only imagine what the Qiu family has endured all these years. It won't end well. Dinhook turned and asked, is he trying to break away from the Din family? Honestly, in this day and age, forcing someone to be a servant is going too far. Over here, Qiu was sweating bullets. The Din family is currently at the center of a media firestorm. This is the best chance for the Qiu family to break free from the Din family's control. We have to fan the flames of public opinion. In any case, with Dinhook in our hands, everyone's safety should be guaranteed, but the sooner we can get them out, the better. Van Triet can't step in to rescue them right now, so these things can only be done by me. Meanwhile, Van Triet turned around, looking confused at one of the three men, as he was asked, are you Van Triet? The three were, in order, Lo Yao, an S-rank senior archer and chief of public security, Ma Tu, an S-rank sword guard and deputy chief of public security, and Ma Dat, an S-rank sword guard and deputy chief of public security. Lo Yao said, we're from the public security department. We currently suspect you of being involved in the heroic dungeon incident, so we're conducting an investigation. We expect your cooperation. Van Triet casually put his hands in his pockets, looking at them. Lo Yao glanced at a piece of paper and began to read. Van Triet, 17 years old, from Dongvuang Citadel Town. At age 11, his parents were killed in a new dungeon, disaster, after which he lived alone off his inheritance. He has a withdrawn personality, and his academic results were always among the worst in school. He said, this is your old file. He shifted his gaze to Van Triet, but recently, you don't seem to match it anymore. He began to analyze. In that heroic dungeon, you fought against countless wanderers and killed the Wanderer Lord. After that, you and the Din family's third master disappeared for a period of time and just so happened to reappear right after the heroic dungeon incident. Lo Yao glanced down. So let me ask, how did your power suddenly increase to this level? Furthermore, where were you and what were you doing during that time? Van Triet remained silent for a moment before suddenly answering. The reason I didn't return to school is because the boss in the heroic dungeon was too terrifying, so I ran away to clear my head. He raised his hand and declared confidently, I possess strength far beyond my peers, but I used to enjoy hiding it. However, suspecting me of killing a hero is just ridiculous. Van Triet frowned. In response, at my age and without a class, how could I possibly kill one? After all, heroes are class holders. Besides, why would I do it? There has to be a motive. The man replied calmly, smoking his cigarette. A normal student indeed lacks the motive and the power to do such things. Lo Yao stepped closer, probing him. Hey, but I've heard there exists a skill in this world that allows a class holder to disguise themselves as someone else. Don't you think? You could be one of them. Van Triet replied softly. Officer, I'm just a student. You can't just throw out accusations like that. He suddenly used his skill. Dispel. Disguise. Type. Skill. Quality. Epic. Removes any disguise type skill applied to the target. A system notification chimed. Activation failed. Please, use this skill on a target currently using a disguise skill. Lo Yao thought worriedly. Could it be that his skill is a higher rank than my Dispel disguise? He suddenly asked. Speaking of which, at your age, you should be learning the principles of communication devices, right? Van Triet scratched his head and replied, that's something graduating students learn. I haven't even grasped the connection between the class system and common machines yet. The three men stood, looking at him in silence. Lo Yao spoke up. That's all for today. He turned his head and said, we'll be back. Van Triet rejoiced internally. Thank goodness. I've been reading a lot of general knowledge books lately, mostly textbooks. I guess I managed to drive them off, but they're just the appetizer. A blue figure spoke. I am Laui. I was initially sent ahead as bait, to lure out anyone connected to my master. He continued, I am already dead. Laui will surely dispatch his shadow guards to investigate your strength and background. Van Triet thought to himself, the people Laui sends won't follow the rules like those public security officers. If I don't get a class, it'll be extremely dangerous. He thought of Dinan, but the principal is only at school for an hour each day, and I've never seen him enter the treasure vault even once. He walked outside, still deep in thought, let alone activating the formation. If I simply rely on the mirror world, I'm afraid I won't be able to retrieve the seedling in a short amount of time. Meanwhile, Lo Yao was full of questions. Is this all the investigation has yielded? He worried. Right now, the most obvious suspects are Van Triet and Her Highness, Lhasa. Suddenly, someone said, Princess Lhasa is definitely not a possibility. He analyzed, but Van Am, the one who is always by her side, is another story. She is a descendant of the rebellious Van family. The voice continued. Furthermore, that Van Triet, who shares the Van surname, is also extremely suspicious. He gave an order. You are to keep a close watch on this Van Triet. If he shows any signs of abnormality, I authorize you to kill him on the spot. Over here, Van Triet let out a surprised, oh? As he walked, he observed, I'm being followed. It seems I'll have to keep up the disguise from now on. Van Triet entered a shop, continuing his observations while having a meal. This time I won't have the meat noodles. I'll get the same thing as everyone else. But even so, this is an incredibly delicious meal. He thought about his miserable past life, where for the most part, he endured the elements and starved. During the catastrophic food shortages, just having a full stomach was a blessing. Where could you possibly find a meal this delicious and refined? Someone at the next table sighed, this is awful. You really can't expect anything from the cafeteria. I was already prepared for it to be hard to swallow, but this is even worse than usual. A friend of his came over to sit with him and asked, Yoon Cheol, how can you eat something this terrible so happily? Don't you hate the cafeteria food? Yoon Cheol was about to answer, because I'm hungry. He wondered, is this stuff really that hard for them to eat? His friend quickly replied, forget it. Don't eat anymore. Let's go out and get something a little better. We haven't had a chance to thank you anyway, so today, we're treating you to the Great Eagle Tavern. He thought to himself. A tavern? He stood up. That place would be a convenient spot to gather all sorts of information, and he might even find more clues about the Cradle of Life from people familiar with modern formations. He replied, sounds good. Yoon Cheol walked into the tavern with his friends. His two friends shouted, an orange dream for each of us. And this is the man of the hour. Get him a different dream. His friend cheerfully put an arm around him and said, you absolutely have to try this amazing different dream. I've only experienced it once myself. The taste is truly incredible. He thought to himself, the changes are far greater than I ever imagined. Yoon Cheol watched everyone clinking their glasses together and thought to himself, there's no way I'll find any information about the Cradle of Life here. He stepped outside and stood in a deserted alley. He couldn't understand himself. What on earth am I even doing? The secret realm is under control, and normal people are only level 30 at most. How could there be any information in a place that ordinary people frequent? Yoon Cheol once again remembered images from the past. Hey, little young master. Is our little knight about to head out on another campaign? Take this honeyed fruit to eat. Yoon Cheol lowered his head, lost in thought, then pushed open a door and entered a room. I don't belong in this present world. He placed his hand on a book, History of the Traitorous Yun Family. Could it be that not a single one of my relatives or friends survived? He opened the book, and a figure appeared, declaring, they're all dead. Yoon Cheol walked along each bookshelf, beginning his search and thinking, in the dead of night, only someone like me, lost in this world, would come to the library to look for books. Yoon Cheol pulled out a book titled Modern History of the Great Clans. Seol Yong saw him and asked, what book are you looking for? He glanced over to see who was speaking and saw Seol Yong. She handed him a book, saying, I found the books on mechanical formations you asked me to look for earlier. It was even written by our school's principal. Yoon Cheol held the book in his hand, thought for a moment, and then spoke. Helping me find books this late? Thank you, really. Seol Yong lowered her head, her hand touching the book. I just couldn't sleep. He lowered his face and opened the book. The last time he brought her 2 pieces of cake, she had smiled and replied, I really should be thanking you for that. Yoon Cheol paused on a page and thought, the contents of this book are profound, and yet, it's very easy to understand. With my current level of knowledge, it's too soon to say I've completely grasped it. But if it's just a matter of causing some damage, that won't be difficult. After all, The mechanical part is just supportive. The main focus is still the formations I'm already familiar with. He looked up at Seol Yong as if he wanted to say something. If the matter of the formations is settled, then, after hesitating for a moment, Yoon Cheol finally dared to ask, do you know if there are any books here related to the Yoon family? She froze for a moment, then her face twisted into a dark expression as she replied, no. Her next sentence took him completely by surprise. You won't find any even if you search the entire library. Before the Yoon family's rebellion, His Majesty seemed to have a very good relationship with them. Therefore, even now, after suffering such a painful betrayal, even the compassionate His Majesty has forbidden the circulation of any books related to the Yoon family. Hearing this, Yoon Chol gritted his teeth in anger. Compassionate? Regardless of what actually happened back then, wasn't it possible that there were innocent people in the Yoon family who might have survived? Seol Yong turned her face away, her voice filled with coldness. That's right. As she was speaking, another voice suddenly cut in. There were no innocents. They're all dead. Images from the past began to surface. Ra Wei personally led the Shadow Guards to carry out the operation. Since Ra Wei was close to the Yoon family, he easily gained their trust, then launched a sneak attack to assassinate their strongest fighter, the head of the Yoon family. And after that, it wasn't just the Yoon family members. From the guards, to the servants, and even the servants' children, not a single one was left. They were all slaughtered without a trace. After his master's death, Ra Wei spread the story of his master's betrayal to eliminate any potential threats. Anyone with any relation to the Yoon family was put under an assassination order. Back to the present. Van Triet tightened his grip on the sword, growling, Luo Wei, inside the principal's mirror barrier world. He swung his arm, unleashing numerous sword strikes. The formation was shattered. Memories flashed by once again, this time to when Van Triet was 12 years old. He had just finished his sword practice, sheathing his sword with a quiet sigh. Van Triet turned his head and teased, Luo Wei, you're doing great. If you keep practicing like this, we're gonna run out of training dummies. The 12-year-old boy heard this and tilted his head to look over. Not enough? Then I'll go ask my mother to spend more money to buy some more. He walked over to Luo Wei's side, his dissatisfaction clear on his face. I'm not telling you to buy more dummies. I'm telling you to rest. If you don't rest, I can't rest properly either. Why do both you and my brother love training so much? Another sword strike sliced through a training post. As he swung, he said, my father once told me that every drop of sweat shed in training is to prevent a drop of blood from being shed on the battlefield. The one speaking was Van Ni, Van Triet's older brother, currently 16 years old. He stopped, looking up at the two of them. I'll be allowed into the secret realm soon, so I can't afford to be lazy. 10 more sets of training. Luo Wei clutched his sword tightly and whispered. Van Triet leaned in close to his face, pondering. The master did say that diligence is the most important thing. Luo Wei tried to stand up straight despite his nervousness. The master also said, too much of anything is not a good thing. He chuckled and whispered in the boy's ear. I think Big Brother is just afraid we'll surpass him. It would be so embarrassing to be surpassed by someone 4 years younger. A glint appeared in Van Triet's eyes. If your highness says so, then after I finish this set, I will rest. Luo Wei squeezed his eyes shut, his body trembling slightly, while Van Triet wore a carefree, mocking smile. A little girl ran over, carrying a large tray. Big brother, second brother, Luo Wei, Denny shouted cheerfully. I brought everyone chilled, honey lemonade, and freshly baked apple tarts. She stopped, completely out of breath, panting heavily. Normally, we wouldn't be allowed to eat these. Van Triet and Luo Wei quickly ran to Denny's side. He grabbed a tart and ate it quickly. This is delicious. Denny, you are absolutely the best little sister in the world. The other boy ate more slowly. That's right. The best little sister. The little girl held out another cup to Van Ni. Big brother, this is for you. He took it and took a large gulp. Van Triet smiled and praised her. It's so sweet. Thanks, little sis. And so, the four of them gathered together, chatting happily. Guess what? We have guests from the Southern Night Order today. Auntie Cook started preparing in the kitchen early this morning. Denise tilted her head and pointed at the three boys. I had a really hard time sneaking this out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get so much of this good stuff. Hearing that, he spat out the mouthful of drink he had just taken. Danny, stolen food is. Van Triet cut him off with a loud laugh. No wonder it tastes so good. Right, Luo Wei? The boy glanced over and played along. Exactly. And so, the group remained cheerful, with only Van Ni looking displeased. Back then, I didn't really have any feelings about the knight's secret realm or anything like that. In the present, He reached out and pressed the confirmation button on the system panel. The thing I wanted most was to live happily with my family and friends forever. Van Triet raised the hand, holding a small sprout. The surroundings were immediately enveloped in a green light. The images of the past began to crack into fragments. But not everyone thought the same way. He clutched his head tightly. I don't understand. Luo Wei. Red blood trickled down the broken shards of glass. All those years of friendship. It gradually covered up the things that had been sealed in the past. How could you destroy it all so easily? An unclear face with bright, shining golden eyes appeared. All for the stability of the Empire. Van Triet's vision began to blur, and that face now became clearer. He took out the knife he was carrying. 2 notification panels from the system appeared. Warrior of Peace has successfully changed class. Healing mode has been activated. Threat mode has been activated. Van Triet slowly stepped out from an ink-black doorway. Dark, gloomy smoke enveloping his body. The next target, Van Sa, suddenly ran up to him, one hand on her hip, panting from rushing. Van Triet, I'm begging you to help me. She lifted her face and screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't you owe me 2 favors? I'm begging you to help me save Van Am. She's about to be killed by the Shadow Guard. Van Triet turned his head, his eyes wide as he asked, Van Am? The Shadow Guard? Why would the Shadow Guard target Van Am? Didn't she stay out of the whole Hero's Secret Realm incident? Van Sa avoided his gaze, her voice filled with hesitation. Because. She's actually a descendant of the traitorous Van family. Hearing those words, he was so shocked he froze. Van Sa's voice trembled as she spoke. Van Am is a descendant of the rebellious Van family, so she has been deemed the prime suspect in the Hero's Secret Realm incident by the Shadow Guard. They stormed directly into my residence and took Van Am away. It was useless, even when I tried to prove to him that Van Am wasn't even there when the hero died. He just wouldn't listen. I've contacted everyone who could possibly help. I've tried everything, but nothing has worked. I really don't know what else to do to save her. Van Triet immediately pulled up his hood, his voice low. Where are they now, model? Let me lead the way for you. He turned his head and replied, No, you're in charge of support. Yun Che immediately flew up high. It's more convenient for me to go alone. A system notification announced, You have left the mirror world. Yun Che's eyes suddenly lit up, without a hint of hesitation. Suddenly, a bright screen appeared, right next to him. Yun Che muttered, Yun Yin. Is she really a descendant of the Yun clan? Weren't the Yun clan already wiped out by Luo Wei? How could she possibly still be alive? Yun Sa frowned and said, From what I know, the Yun clan had an illegitimate child who was living elsewhere back then. Her words left him a bit confused. An illegitimate child? My father was very strict with himself and valued his honor. He would never have an affair. Was she my uncle's descendant? Yun Sa continued. As for that child, the king, either out of compassion or nostalgia for old times, didn't kill her. He even kept her and raised her near the royal palace, but she never left the small manor where she grew up. She didn't even know who the father of her own child was, and eventually, she took her own life. And Yun Yin is the child of that illegitimate child, who then continued to live in that small manor. Yun Che suddenly lowered his gaze. How did she get out now? Why did she become your bodyguard? She continued, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm actually the daughter of the kingdom's 3rd prince. When I first met Yun Yin, I was only 7 years old. At that time, I hated the complicated etiquette classes the most, so I would often sneak off to a remote area of the palace, and that's when I found her being bullied. The areas near the royal palace are all filled with the children of officials, who are used to being spoiled and arrogant. As a descendant of a traitor, no matter how much Yun Yin was bullied, no one would ever reprimand them. The young boy suddenly spoke with a sneer. Does the bastard child of a traitor deserve to read fairy tales? How ridiculous. Do you even know how to write the word happiness? Yun Sa's voice grew heavy. In fact, many even saw bullying Yun Yin as a way to curry favor with His Majesty, so they did everything they could to humiliate her. The young boy's eyes widened. This kind of book is for noble young ladies. Now that you've touched it, it's disgusting. Let go of it now. Tear it up and burn it. At that moment, Yun Yin was trying to endure every second. The boy continued to mock her, clutching that tattered book like it's some kind of treasure. I heard your mother was insane. Looks like you're about to end up the same way. The boy's words finally provoked her. Without hesitation, Yun Yin immediately bit down on the boy's arm. She still clutched the book, dodging to the side. It seemed that at that moment, Yun Yin had been pushed to her absolute limit. Yun Sa stared, wide-eyed. I had seen many people get beaten and cursed at, then break down crying, but I had never seen anyone look so desperate while protecting a tattered book. The young boys shouted in anger, "You dare bite someone? We'll see if I don't beat you to death." As she said this, Yunsa's throat suddenly felt tight. I didn't understand. So, she immediately spoke up. "Stop. What do you think you're doing?" They turned their heads in surprise. "Your Highness, that thing stole a book, and she bit us." "Your Highness, she's like a mad dog," Yunsa said in a low voice. "All the books in the library have the royal emblem. Does this book have one? I'm afraid it was probably picked out of a garbage dump." The two of them seemed unable to say another word. Yunsa was holding a thick book in her arms. She slowly held it out. "I'll give you this one. Throw that one away." Yun Yin seemed to be mesmerized by the brand new book, but she immediately shook her head, showing no intention of accepting it. Instead, Yun Yin knelt down and began to pick up the torn scraps of paper. She fumbled for a moment, still not daring to look up. Yunsa's eyes widened in surprise. Compared to brand new treasures, that discarded item was more important to her. Looking at that corner, although it was a bit hidden, it was the only corner in the hallway that received sunlight. I could vaguely sense that perhaps that was the only ray of hope and warmth she could enjoy. Even if it was broken and torn, it was still better than a perfect item discarded by someone else. Something that could disappear at any moment. After that, I often went to that corner. Sometimes I could help her, and sometimes I couldn't. Later, I petitioned the king to allow her to be my bodyguard. This helped her avoid most of the public bullying. But there was still no shortage of secret bullying. It only got a little better after we came to this school with our identities hidden. And now, she's been dragged into this mess. The Shadow Guard is a unit that reports directly to His Majesty. They are ruthless and have no scruples. They'd rather arrest the wrong person than let a suspect get away. Not to mention the innocent. There have been many cases where entire families were massacred for no reason. So you absolutely have to save her. I will find a way to repay you. If there's anything else I can help with, just tell me. At that moment, Yun Che's entire body charged into the mirror world. His gaze suddenly froze. He glanced up and saw the figure of Yun Yin, her body covered in blood. It seemed as if, at this moment, she was completely devoid of emotion. Hei Wu immediately spoke up, still so stubborn. "But tonight, I'll be the one in charge. The night watch is long, and I have countless punishments I can use on you." The man roared in anger. "No one can save you. You won't get away with this." Von Triet swiftly appeared, attacking Hak Vo. Von Am flinched, backing away with wide eyes. He slowly turned his head and asked in a low voice, "Are you all right?" Hak Vo staggered to his feet and exclaimed, "So, I finally managed to lure you out. You're the one who killed Din Khan." He was nothing more than a glorified mascot on display. He was a hero in name only, with no real power or strength. That made me suspect you were a former member of the Van family. After all, the Van family was his only real enemy. Meanwhile, Van Triet was using a healing bell to treat Van Am's injuries. Hak Vo continued to ramble, using this accursed spawn as bait. "As expected, you fell right into my trap and came running. It's a good thing His Majesty kept these two pieces of bait. Otherwise, with that ghost-like stealth skill of yours, you'd be a real nuisance." Then, a large formation symbol appeared, a sealing array. Hak Vo shouted, "But since you're here, don't even think about leaving." His eyes widened as he laughed smugly. "This sealing array is unbreakable. Among all the masters, only I can dispel it. Just give up quietly, and I promise I won't torture you." He then charged forward with two long hooks, shouting, "But first, I'm gonna have some fun with that abomination." Seeing this, Van Triet raised a protective shield around them. The system panel appeared. Field of Peace, class skill type, epic quality. Within its range, allied units receive a 10% damage reduction, and enemy unit speed is reduced by 20%. Van Triet stepped forward forcefully, deflecting each of the man's attacks. He said coldly, "So you tormented her just for your own amusement?" Hak Vo attacked relentlessly, screaming with excitement. "Of course, the reputation of us Shadow Guards was enough to draw you here." A strange red light began to envelop the chain links on his hooks. It then launched a fierce, chaotic barrage of attacks toward Van Triet. Seeing this, Bon Bon appeared to shield Van Triet and Van Am. The system panel appeared. Bon Bon has used Iron Armor, Shield Armor, Guardian Aura, and Full Guard. Van Triet watched in silence, his eyes burning with killing intent. Then, he spoke in a cold voice. "Luo Wei himself will lead the Shadow Guards. Destroy everything. Annihilate them all. Leave no one alive. You made one mistake." Next, Van Triet agilely dodged every strike from the man's hooks. A glow appeared in his hand, and a chain and sword materialized. He thought, "Asterisk, you Shadow Guard, bastards killed my family, and now you still want to torment others. Asterisk, asterisk, this child has done nothing wrong. Asterisk." The system panel appeared. Peace Dancer, Threat Mode. Attack power increased by 10%. You have used Reversed Rhythm, minus 20 magic points. Activating Blade of Rapture, activating Courage, minus 15 magic points. Strategic War Dance, minus 20 magic points. Activating Gallantry, minus 15 magic points. Van Triet lunged forward, exclaiming, "You're not getting away." Over on the other side, a strange small circle appeared on Hakvo's hand. The man was confused. What kind of weapon is this, that it can transform like that? Then, countless small circles appeared. Chain Fire Rapture. 1,000 revolving blades, he shouted. But you've already used advanced recovery skills and a field aura. That's clearly a support-oriented class change. Aren't those types of classes supposed to have no attack skills? The transforming weapon could also change into a whip. Van Triet quickly used his chain to shatter the man's hooks. Next, rectangular white mirrors appeared around him. Van Triet charged forward. Domain, Martial Threat. Hakvo yelled, "Not bad moves. It's no wonder a piece of trash like you could kill Din Kone. But you're still leagues below me. You can't even get close." Suddenly, Van Triet vanished, then reappeared right behind him. Hakvo started to panic, whipping his head around in confusion. The next moment, 2 chains slammed deep into his back. Hakvo coughed up blood and said in alarm, appearing from a mirror, "Is that your stealth skill?" Then, as Van Triet took a step back, the man charged forward, bellowing, "But this little wound has revealed your trump card. It's probably still just a support skill." Suddenly, he was struck by another attack from behind. Malice Blade. Malice Blade, class skill type, epic quality. Corrupts and enhances damage and abnormal status effects inflicted on enemy units. At that moment, the chain links from his hooks appeared one by one. Hakvo screamed, "An attack skill, you! What the hell kind of class is this? Fine, I won't underestimate you anymore." Then, the chains multiplied. Exclusive skill of the Trickster Thief. Trick Split. Countless chains swarmed together as he said smugly, "You won't be able to use your mirror ability anymore. None of your summons will be able to withstand my next attack. You and that abomination can die by 1,000 cuts together." At that moment, Van Triet reached his hand to the sky. A giant golden bell materialized. Exclusive skill of the Peace Dancer. Final Dance, Heavenly Soul Suppressing Bell. Final Dance, Heavenly Soul Suppressing Bell. Class skill type, epic quality. A class exclusive skill of legendary quality. During its activation, a suppressive power is unleashed on everyone. All attacks aimed at the Phantom Angel will be reflected back at the attacker. After the skill ends, the entire party's attack power increases by 40%. For 20 seconds, the skill cost buff is reduced by 20%. Hakvo's pupils widened, and within them, the image of a young boy appeared. He was dazed, then relentlessly attacked, unable to defend himself. Hakvo screamed, "Invincibility plus damage reflection. How could an S-class character possess a skill like this?" Just then, the barrier of the formation shattered, and the formation was broken. Van Triet strode forward, step by step, imposing and powerful. Facing him, the severely injured Hakvo could only sit on the ground, his eyes wide with fear. Then, Van Triet said coldly, "Vanam, first, turn away." Gripping his sword, Hakvo asked, his voice trembling with fear, "What are you going to do?" The boy replied grimly, "You will pay 100-fold for what you've done." His face covered in blood, the man replied in a panic, "The other shadow guards are on their way here right now. You can't possibly fight 3-on-1. It's too late for you to escape. I am one of His Majesty's shadow guards. If you dare harm me, His Majesty will never forgive you." Witnessing this, Van Am was also terrified. A piercing scream rang out. "I beg you, don't come any closer. Stay away from me. You're insane." Suddenly, the wall behind them exploded, and 3 dark figures rushed in. 3 shadow guards had appeared. One of them roared angrily, "Traitor, surrender immediately." Despite this, Van Triet stood tall, his face devoid of any emotion. Then, he glanced over, his pupils glowing with murderous intent. A moment later, Van Am stared at the ground, stunned and speechless. Then, she looked up and exclaimed in shock, "All 3 Tier 2 shadow guards. You killed them in an instant?" Van Triet said, "Lhasa has prepared a nearby hiding spot to support us. You go meet her first. These spirits will protect you on your way out." Van Am started to ask, "And you?" Before she could finish, Van Triet replied, I still have things to take care of. He wondered to himself, asterisk, I don't know how many of them there are in total. I wonder if I can still hide. Asterisk, asterisk. My abilities. Asterisk. Then, numerous dark figures began to form around Van Triet. He thought, asterisk. The Shadow Guards are the unit that Laoi sent to. Asterisk. Asterisk. Slaughter the Van family. Asterisk. Then, he coldly interrogated them. During the massacre of the Van family, were you there? Which of you participated in the massacre? One of the shadows answered hesitantly. Shadow 1, Shadow 3, and Shadow 5 were there. Hearing this, he thought to himself, asterisk. It seems they were all, asterisk, asterisk, trained in the darkness. Hence the uniform names. Asterisk. Van Triet asked with suspicion, is that all? The shadow immediately replied, there was also Van Nie. At that, a flicker of shock appeared in his eyes. The image of the gentle Van Nie appeared in his mind. And Van Triet muttered faintly, Big brother. Van Nie.